Mike. Mike, August 13th meeting of the City of Sonoma Climate Action Commission, call to order. Pleased to be here. We have clearly have a quorum. We're missing Philip. Hopefully he will arrive. Don't know, but we do have a quorum, so let us get underway. Put my reading glasses on so I can see the agenda. And I'm the chair, and I'm pleased to be here. I'm going to read the comments from the public. At this time, members of the public may comment on any item not appearing on tonight's agenda. It's recommended they keep their comments to 3 minutes or less, please. Under state law, unless permitted by the Ralph Brown Act, the merits of the matters presented under this early item tonight cannot be discussed or acted upon by our Climate Action Commission this evening's meeting. For items appearing on the agenda, the public will be invited to make comments at the time that particular item comes up for commission consideration. Upon being acknowledged by the chair, please step to the podium, speak in the microphone, state your name, tell us where you live, Sonoma or elsewhere, and public comments received prior to the meeting can be found in online and so on. So let us move to item 1, comments from the public. Are there any comments from the public this evening? Yes, sir. A pleasure.
Armando Zimmerman, West Spain Street.
Let's open the microphone so that they can hear you.
Yeah, Armando Zimmerman, West Spain Street. Okay. I'm here to represent Captain Obvious tonight, and that everything I've been reading says we can't expect too much from the federal government, whether it comes to any type of climate mitigations, etc. And I think it's all going to trickle down to the state level and for us. So, the first thing that in general I'd like to later talk. Maybe question. It said that in your minutes, I looked at them real quickly on my little phone, that we might be talking about the circulation element. Oh, okay. And but anyway, just for tonight.
Yes, that's one of the items on the agenda this evening, along with other parts of the draft general plan emerging.
Okay, thank you. So what I would like to say to this group is that because of my previous statements about what I think is dire in relation to what's happening to the country in regard to climate and planet warming and whatever, I really wish or hope, and if I'm speaking out of place, then put me in my place. I go to several meetings here and there, and including traffic safety, because I've got my own neighborhood agenda with them on their docket, their shadow docket for 3 years, and I do not see any awareness on the part of that committee, including the staff, what they call the test committee, the staff from Public Works and Police and Fire and whatever. I do not see any emphasis in whatever. And since I had used up my 3 minutes previously, they almost threw me out, because what I brought to them was the recommendations from the proposed recommendations from safe and healthy mobility proposed policies. In particular, I wanted to emphasize, because it was to my advantage, 2.55, which talks about roundabouts and mini roundabouts, and just general safety and calming all goes together. And basically, I handed it out so that people could have copies, and boop, 3 minutes are up. But the Public Works Director at the end of the meeting happened to say, hey, if you guys are interested, take a look at what's happening in regard to the circulation element. What, did he do it because I handed this out? I don't know. Maybe he meant to do it anyway.
That's exactly what I was about to suggest. So I'm in line with the Public Works Director. Thank you.
Okay. Well, anyway, I was going to say, I think it would be wonderful if somehow this committee could I know, another meeting or whatever, I'm crazy, could meet with traffic safety, not just the staff, but the citizen members that sit on the dais. So anyway, that's my public comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. A very useful comment. We much appreciate public involvement. To be sure, rest assured that this commission has been and will be meeting with other commissions, including the Planning Commission and the Traffic Safety Commission, from time to time to share insights and to work together so that the word action in Climate Action Commission begins to mean something. So thank you. That is indeed our. And I think now we can close public comment, viewing the size of the audience we have. There may be others on TV, and we're glad you're there. We're moving next.
Were there any comments
Sir.
submitted online, public comments before the meeting? I didn't check.
No, nor did I. No comments online, so we're going to move on. We're going to close item 1, and we're moving on to consent calendar item 2. This is the minutes of the May 14th meeting. Fellow commissioners, are there any comments, suggested revisions to the May 14th meetings as presented by staff? Commissioner Fogelberg, no comments. Good. I would entertain a motion to approve said minutes. Come on. fellas.
So moved.
Is there a second to Dr. Hyman's motion?
Second.
Second, there's a second. Is there any discussion of the motion? If not, we may have.
I'll just mention
yes,
they're
sir.
very brief, as is our habit on this commission, and I'm just thankful that we have a videotape and that I have my own personal notes. Thanks.
And I reviewed them carefully, and there were no editorial comments from Mr. or otherwise known as Dr. Editor.
And just as a reminder, we do only do action minutes for all commissions and council, so that's why they're brief.
And there is a full tape recording somewhere
Yes.
online if you knew where to look.
Yes. Ready for the roll?
Ready for the roll call, please, Natalie.
Commissioner Fogelberg? Here. Commissioner Heinerman?
Here.
Commissioner Ward? Aye. Commissioner McCloskey?
Here.
Vice Chair Conlon?
Aye.
Chair Morrell?
Here and I.
Thank you. The motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, team. Okay, now we're moving on to the items for this evening's much more extended discussion. That's a very important set of discussions this evening about the general plan draft documents that have been under review by public and public comments and so on. Jennifer, are you going to be presenting each item in turn as we move through this? So we're going to turn to Ms. Gates on local economy. We have 4 elements of the general plan this evening for anybody, the hundreds on TV wondering what's going on. We have 4 elements of the general plan that have been presented in draft and have been reviewed in various ways, including by several members of this commission, and senior staff is going to be presenting. We're starting with the local economy draft chapter, one of 4 chapters this evening. Jennifer.
Yes, so thank you, Chair. So Jennifer Gates, Community Development Director. So tonight, this first agenda item is to present to you what the General Plan Ad Hoc Committee has been reviewing in those elements and their proposed comments and edits. So that ad hoc is Chair Morrell and Commissioner Heinerman. So what I'm going to present to you, you'll see edits to the document as well as comments from usually mine, but sometimes David's or Philip's words or from them. However, the 3 of us did work on this document before it went out. So it's all of our comments together, and some of them are maybe just me asking questions or clarifying things that we need to define moving on. So as part of this review, we sent to you, asked you to review these documents, see if you had any other comments or changes or questions. And then the idea is that we'll take that and you will do basically a straw vote, not a true vote, but more of like a straw about whether the commission agrees in general sense with all of the comments and questions as presented. The reason why I say that is because what you see is not necessarily what I will end up sending back to the consultant, because I am going to have to combine your comments, the public comments, the General Plan Task Force comments, the Planning Commission comments, and if any other commission's comments. So I get the privilege of going through all comments and merging for all documents. So that's why I say, please, like, you can bleed on this, but just recognize that your blood, sweat, and tears may not come out into that final version. So with that, we are going to review 4 of these documents tonight. These are the 4 that have been released. We have 4 more to go, but here's 4 for now. Plenty for you. I'm sure it was great reading and it kept you up all night. So the first one is going to be the local economy element. This is an element that is not required by the state. This is a choice that the city took. I don't know if it was done previously to this last general plan or not, but it's in the current general plan. A lot of the policies that you see are around what was in the general plan already, with some edits and updates. And now we're taking a look at it, and a lot of the comments that we received is it needs work. I get it, but what kind of work? And so that's where the comments from the different groups kind of play into that and help build what we are going to end up giving back to the consultant as far as recommended policies or direction on where we want to go with some policies. So with that, if you follow around the task force, there is a lot in this. In my task force meetings, we go, and with the ad hocs, we went line by line. I'd rather not to do that because we don't have time. So I am going to go by page, and if there's something that you have a question or a comment or a suggestion for discussion by the commission on, that's when I want you to speak up. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. So, local economy.
Understood.
Okay. Local economy element, page number 1.
I'd start with a brief comment. We've highlighted climate smart tourism. It's an important action of this commission, working with a team of experts from the Chamber of Commerce. The local economy chapter, when you read it, refers to the Chamber of Commerce numerous times as an important coalescing point for our local economy members, the businesses and their supporters and users and so on. And we have put in climate smart and climate sensitive in a number of edits here to emphasize the importance of that emerging theme from the Climate Action Commission, particularly its Education and Outlook ad hoc team, working with the Chamber and its team.
So part of this section, we need a definition for what climate smart tourism is.
A draft definition emerged earlier today in some internet conversation and will be in your hands shortly.
Okay.
So thank you. I have some general comments as well.
On page 1?
On
Or just-
page, well, on the general overview to this element.
Okay.
And that is, we are at 428 parts per million CO2 in the atmosphere, 1935 parts per billion in methane, and 339 parts per billion in nitrous oxide. For us to persist in an economic plan that doesn't take these realities into account strikes me as foolhardy. And given that this element is supposed to live for 20 years to guide our city's economic development over the next 20 years, I think, for example, the assumptions regarding stable population, above average retail sales, and the ongoing attractiveness as a tourist destination all have to be taken a look at critically. Santa Rosa experienced a tragic wildfire event that caused 5% of its housing stock to be lost, and great tourism impacts in that city. We all experience significant impacts from the pandemic. So I'd like to see a little bit of thought put into some contingency planning to make our economy resilient to the possibility that there will be climate impacts in our 20-year future here. I agree with your comments, Jennifer, as I saw them, that we need a definition for climate smart. And similarly for Sonoma character. I would also raise the issue of heritage tourism. I saw that in there, and I don't know what that term means. And to that last point, I recently had a conversation with a representative of the State Parks Research and Development Office. He's been working with the Governor's Office of Tribal Affairs on what's called the California Truth and Healing Council. And there's some discussion about the possibility of Sonoma coming to terms with our history of indigenous people in this valley. And informally, on the plaza last weekend, I had a conversation with a number of young people, and they said, I won't go in that building. I feel strongly about that place, and it's not a good place. I remember being required to learn about the missions as a child, but that's not what I've learned since. So I think that it's important for the city tourism folk to realize that what we've been doing in our tourism promotion efforts to date may not be the same in the future. And so working with this Mr. McCannell from State Parks and that whole commission, we may be able to get more insight into how to do this. They're working statewide with the missions, but they also have a number of other things. I have two specific policy recommendations. One would be to monitor and support the recommendations of this Truth and Healing Council, which includes revised programming and curriculum at the state historic parks, and implement that into the city's tourism promotion efforts. And then secondarily, to identify some tribal advisors to assist the city in ongoing consultation with the tribes so that they can perhaps help us in this endeavor, because he told me that they had tried to do an event here in Sonoma and could not get enough tribal participation because of its history. I do have on page 1, I do have some specific comments now, but I may be premature. I think that's on the subsequent pages, so I can wait for those.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. Very powerful comments. Other general comments on the local economy chapter from any other commissioners at this point? No,
Okay.
and indeed the definition of climate smart is in its final draft phases. It's a bit longer than just 1 or 2 words, so we're going to have to figure out how to fit it into this document, but we'll work on that once we have it available for the city staff to review.
Okay. Comments, edits on page 2.
Can we move on the screen to page 2?
I'm on page 2.
Oh, that's underway.
I'm on page 2 right now.
Oh, but this is page 2. Tom Conlon, Vice Chair.
On LE3, business diversity, I'd like to see more specificity around what the community really thinks that should look like. We have a number of different ways we could go, being that we are kind of an intoxicant tourism-based economy now, and wine consumption is going down. We should make a decision. Are we going to expand the class of intoxicants that we encourage in the city, or are we going to encourage alternative kind of economic activity? You know, Rohnert Park is excited about plastics pyrolysis. There's a facility they're proposing to implement over there. In Florida, they're excited about migrant detention facilities. Now, I don't think any of those are the things the city of Sonoma wants to promote, but we should be more specific, because if we aren't more specific in our general plan, we are vulnerable to these kinds of proposals popping up and hijacking the character of our community and our economic drivers. So I would encourage under 2.4, that's the next page, I can wait. Thank you.
Page 3. Page 4, it's like nothing. Page 5.
Again, under 2.4.
2-4.
So I thought about maybe rephrasing that to say discourage the use of non-renewable as opposed to encourage. Encourage in a general plan tends to be fairly weak. You know, it's not a, these are broad statements at the beginning of the plan, I understand, but and perhaps we'd want to add circular economy principles in here.
Is it possible, Vice Chair Conlon, to change the word encourage to the use of require? In our, unless they're, with limited exceptions or something like that as stronger?
I hear you, and I guess I was referencing that. At this level of the plan, or of goals, I guess, we know we're in policies, right? LE2 and 4 is policies. These are broad statements, so I'm not expecting it to be more specific than that at this level of the plan. But the more general comment is that our Chamber of Commerce, which I think is referenced in one of these, in this area. I mean, our Chamber of Commerce does a great service to the community. It represents the largely small businesses that are incorporated here and founded here. But they are by their nature inherently defensive of and protective of that constituency. And in my conversations with some of the tourism promotion folks and the chamber folks, they have admitted to me that the nature of that network is that they are focused on this quarter, getting the business done now. They don't have the luxury of planning off 20 years into the future largely. And that is frankly our responsibility at the city to guide the community in that response. So I see kind of the need for that in this plan, and maybe there's others besides the chamber who could be more helpful in that. Maybe the state has resources in innovation. Maybe the, what's the innovation business group? SCORE executives tend to be a little closer to the edge of emerging business opportunities. I'm sure there's other folks that would have maybe a broader perspective than just our local chamber. So with no shade on what they actually do, all the good work they do in the community, I encourage the city to look maybe beyond that group a little bit more. And in the LE3H, which is coming up.
So on 2-4.
Yeah.
So we try to stay positive, and discourages negative. But the other is, and I was trying to go through, when we said, I try to make sure if there's a policy that there's an action associated with it, right? So if we're encouraging the use of renewable energy sources, what is my action associated with that policy? And so in this case, it looks that it was specific, more focused on connecting developers and residents with resources for renewable energy. And that's kind of was the focus. That's how we encourage.
Right.
If we change this to discourage, then I'm doing something in the negative, right? I'm making a code that would be like, don't do this.
Right.
You know, that kind of thing. So think of it that way too. When we encourage or to promote or do something in the positive, it's because we're trying to create something versus negate something. I guess.
That's helpful, appreciate it. And so what you're basically saying is it's not an either or. If we do want to really discourage and have policy and action, that's another pair.
Yeah, so if you had an action associated with discouraging, then what is that action? Because joining is not discouraging, right? It's encouraging.
And that's essentially the issue that popped out at me reading through and that I wanted to raise before the commission tonight, my fellow commissioners. We already have a few things in our existing climate strategy that are arguably discouraging. The gas station ban is a small one. That we acknowledge that it won't have a huge immediate climate impact, but it is directionally appropriate given that we're phasing out gasoline in the state of California. And I mean, there's other efforts at the state level that we could bring closer to home. For example, labeling and disclosure at gasoline pumps. I think some cities have tried to do that, and maybe some have been successful. I think Cambridge in Massachusetts was able to get labels on the gas pumps that just give people a heads up about those gallons you're putting in your car right now while you're reading this sign are melting the planet. So that would be a active action. I didn't really come prepared with a series of those tonight, but I raised the issue for creative consideration at this 20-year plan stage.
That comment raises for me a timing question for the city to guide not only the commissioners here tonight, but anybody who happens to be listening. What is the timing for follow-on comments of that type before this thing goes beyond where those comments can make a difference?
So my timing for these first 4 is to give them back in September, by the end of September, these first 4. So I will make that known to everybody when I release. I'm getting ready to release the utilities one. When I release that, I'll set the deadline for comments. And that way I have time to collate and everything and then send it back out the door. And so that they have time to deal with it. And then we can focus on the next 4 while they're working on these 4. So that's the idea behind that. So it'll probably be, the deadline will probably be in the next 4 weeks.
Other comments?
Yeah, one
That's
comment.
That's part of why I want to get through these 4 tonight.
Right, exactly.
One comment
Philip.
about the economics, how we're going to change from the wine economy to another economy, and at the same time maintain tourism. I wonder, in the effort, my whole life has been in the wine industry, and it's collapsing. Wine sales are collapsing, wineries are going up, and it's only going to get worse. And it was just in New York Times tonight that 56% of Americans don't drink at all anymore. And 54% of all young people have stopped drinking. And wine consumption has really dropped among young people, especially young women. So I wonder if we need to be looking at our park, the plaza, which is used, it has unlimited alcohol use. It's the only park in Northern California that has that. So I wonder if there was a valve of some sort that you would apply for a permit to host events, where we would creep in on creating a blue plaza where more alcohol-free events would occur. There's another major event or another effort going on from the Wine Institute in San Francisco, encouraging all the wine regions, the American viticultural areas. We have one here, and we have a grower group. Usually it's the growers. And right now, Sonoma is pursuing a 1% added tax on all wine sales in Sonoma Valley. And do we really want that associated and hooked up with where we're carrying a marketing order, a 1% marketing order for the growers? And the growers have their own mission, and they will go elsewhere and get help and operate outside of our city doing whatever they want to do. And I think we should really look at curtailing the use and support of that marketing order. So unless we could now easily step in and have something very mild, it could just be a permit, and we could step in and step on that 1% tax, because that's just more revenues that aren't going to the city and that we don't control, but are mostly and largely going to come out of the city. And then that marketing group will start to interact on the side in separate meetings with our Chamber of Commerce. I can guarantee that. So I think this moving to an alcohol-free events is a real thing coming. It's a societal thing. It's coming to Napa. People are now going to convert wine tasting rooms to wedding events instead of tasting events. So this is already underway in Napa. They're making the moves, and I think we should look at that and try and come to finally have a meeting with God about the alcohol use on the plaza. Otherwise, it starts to smack of something else, like a gold mining town, like up, where they do frog contests or something. What do we do? Where do we go with this?
Interesting comments indeed, Philip Heineman.
Yes, I don't, David and I met a couple times to go over these, and one of the things I kept in mind, I think David kept in mind as well, is we are the Climate Action Commission, which means that we have more input on climate issues. You have your own right to make comments as a citizen. You have other people, other groups to look at this. So a couple of things I kept in mind, I think. First of all, my first comment is, if there ever a time we needed to drink, it would be now, you think. But that's facetious. The other comment is, let's stay in our lane. Let's talk about things that the climate action, there you go. Oh, boy, now you got me totally off the train of thought. It's not hard to do, but
Come on.
stay in our lane to make more powerful the climate-related recommendations. But we also have to keep in mind that what we're talking about is a plan, and a plan that dictates action then becomes more than a plan. It becomes something that someone somewhere in a court says, but the plan says this has to be done. We can do, in my mind, climate action-related recommendations to City Council to do some of the things that don't belong in what the planning and the projected, we want to see things go in this direction, that a plan encompasses. So there are things as a citizen that I would like this plan to incorporate. And every 20 years is not really frequently enough the citizens should be able to input that. But let's remember that where we have the most influence and persuasive ability are recommendations related to climate action. And there are other places to input things that are not related to climate action than what we're recommending. This is my thoughts. I don't know if other people have thoughts as well.
Thank you, Philip. Other comments on this point, or more generally, Philip's point?
Philip, you're saying stay in our lane and maybe stay out of the other committees' lanes.
I think you can get in front of the other committees and talk to them about ideas like alcohol-free plazas, and that is has more impact coming from another group that is dedicated to that issue than it does coming from the Climate Action Commission. I don't want people to view the Climate Action Commission as making policy and things that are not related to climate.
I agree.
Well spoken. Moving on.
Goal 3. Anything on goal 3?
Some screens are working, some are not for technical reasons.
None of the
Philip's
screens
is off,
to my
mine
knowledge.
is off, Tom's is on. Norma's on.
Oh, Norma's is
I
on?
think that was the message.
That was the same thing that happened last night.
Oh.
Who is Jose Becca? Okay. Or Juan?
No.
On the side? If it was just me,
Okay.
I would.
Um,
Let's move on while we're dealing with screen
yeah,
craziness.
does anybody have,
Recognizing the time.
does anybody have, it in another, like in paper or anything
I have it
else?
on my laptop.
Okay. Anybody else need to see it? Cause. Yeah, is that one working? So somebody can move over here. If you need to, you can move to next to Norma. It works. Okay. All right, so I'm not hearing anything on goal 3.
Confirming that's economic diversity starting on page 6, right?
Correct. Ending on page 7.
Yeah, and in the spirit of Philip's comments, I think this section doesn't have much that's directly of nexus to our commission, but I did a comment about LE3H, which is technology specific enough?
Is not what? I'm sorry.
Is just the citing the phrase technology specific enough? Do we want to be being a little more specific about what type of technology we want to encourage here in Sonoma? 25 years ago, I started a software business here. This week, software stocks are dropping precipitously because of our artificial intelligence putting them out of business. So we want to think about what the high tech that we want here. Do we want artificial intelligence? Do we want biotechnology? Do we want, no, probably. So the things that come to mind that fit under that generically are not the things I think the city of Sonoma wants. So I'd like to just get in front of this right now and be a little more specific at this stage.
Can I make I went through the same analysis, with my building components. And I think where I concluded is general points that need to be made to advise people of something they understand. For example, the original plan didn't mention light pollution, so we put light pollution. That has meaning to people. People understand it. They now see that that's an issue that needs to be addressed. So if there's an issue that needs to be addressed, I think that's what we put in. We put the specific issue. We don't need to get into great detail about it in the plan.
And I also think it kind of, under the contents on page 2, it sort of has the idea of like promote business or whatever, and that are promote the historic character of Sonoma. And I feel like we kind of touch on it, but I know what you mean.
Okay. All right. That was on H, correct? Incubators focused on technology, restaurant, sustainable farming. Yeah. Yes,
think
all
all's
of
clear.
ours are going.
Okay.
Does everybody have their computers up and you're good to go? Your personal stuff? Yeah, just a second. I just want to make sure everybody's good on the link. Okay. All right, goal number 4, yes, housing. Is there any
Through the
comments?
chair.
Sorry.
Thank you.
I'm getting talked at from multiple sides. Vice Chair Conlon, please.
Thank you. LE4 housing. I know that this is not a requirement of the state to have this local economy element. I was a little confused at having housing pop up here when in fact we have a whole separate element. But with respect to our commission's mandate as well as this economic driver dimension, it occurred to me that the talk about new housing is great, and we've largely already covered that, I think, in the other element. But we really do have a significant source of economic activity in our existing building stock, and the need to retrofit and repair and maintain that building stock, particularly with needs of energy efficiency, electrification, building decarbonization, electric vehicle chargers at home and businesses, and of course, home and business hardening around fire preparedness. So specifically, I'd like to see a policy stimulating this sector to encourage a more adequate pool of local contractors, training for the contractors, and encouraging better supply of materials and equipment. Right now, we have in the valley, I think anybody would agree that we have an inadequate competition between the parties that serve the valley, which leads to higher prices than outside the valley in these areas. I just drove across, outside the valley to get parts for a project. So I'd encourage that in this, to the extent that we're going to keep housing in the local economy element.
So, I'm gonna read the goal, hold on. So the goal itself is to create additional local, lower and middle income housing options. To have housing at various affordability levels, especially for families and local workers in its tourism and hospitality sectors. So in this case, the housing was specifically associated with jobs. And that's what the connection is. So what you're talking about is more associated with probably more in the economic diversity or sustainable market aspect of trades and goods. By the way that you explained that.
Yeah, and I hear you, and I think that's a fair initial understanding of what I said, but I'd like to clarify because you've helped me understand that this really was a supply side, new construction oriented goal. And I'm saying that we can definitely generate jobs, not out of new construction, but out of servicing the existing building stock that we already have here. And so it can be very stimulative of the economy. In fact, if you look at the national statistics on, it used to be home construction was a much bigger share of the overall building economic activity in the country. Existing buildings now vastly exceed new construction because we have so many buildings that need to be updated and whatnot. So it is actually a bigger share of the economy now.
Yeah, I know. I guess what I'm saying is it's not just housing, right? It's all buildings and it's all aspects of the way I'm connecting it to economy, though, is the way that you were describing it as far as like the jobs in trades and things like that. Like there's programs out there, and I guess that's where I was thinking in my head is maybe it's under the economic diversity section a little bit more around about the trades as related to upgrades.
That's enough from me on this. You understand what I'm saying?
Okay, I just want to make sure I'm getting it. Okay.
So where are we now on which
Still
section?
housing. Goal
We're
number
still
4.
in housing. Goal number LE4. Further commissioner comments? Looks like we're ready to move on to the next segment.
Just a second.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, so let's see. I think that was. I'm just finishing my notes from Tom.
So now we're moving into the conservation and open space element instead of the local economy element. And there are a
Correct.
number of edits from the ad hoc team that have been communicated. They're shown in underscore and so on. Are there other commissioner insights or comments on this particular open space element?
Are we allowing for public comment at this point?
A little louder, please.
Sir, are you finished with the economic part? Is that a whole different, because I don't have it in front of me, I can't read that.
We're not into public comment at the moment, are we?
That's what I will let you decide if you want to take public comment after each element.
After each element would be appropriate.
Okay.
So we finished the
Economy.
Local economy element. Do you have comments on the local economy discussion? Yes, please come to the podium then. Thank you very much for being here.
Armando Zimmerman again. Regarding Mr. Conlon, your discussion with state parks, I guess I'm curious as to whether any of your discussion involved what the federal government is doing with the national parks and changing, in my opinion, revising history and putting a lot of crimps and cutting back on funds and that kind of thing. I just was wondering if that came up in your discussion, and is that going to affect our historic outlook here?
Tom, do you want to jump into that one?
We don't respond to comments.
Oh, we don't
Okay,
respond to.
Yeah, we're
Okay.
just
I see.
taking comments.
We take the comments,
I
and we
can leave-
appreciate your comment.
Okay, I can leave it as a comment then. And regarding
Thank
the
you.
wine industry, I'm not in it. I'm not affiliated with the tourist or whatever. But last city council meeting, there was a gentleman that don't have his name, but he was very fired up about. I think he leads tours or has tours, and he was just reaming everybody here in Sonoma about how he's avoiding tours here or something like that and taking people west to Santa Rosa and other places because he was just fired up. And I don't know if it makes sense to look at and see what his public comments were a week ago Wednesday, I think it was. And then secondly, I keep seeing these long articles, including today, about the wine industry having large meetings and I don't understand it all. I don't know if any of you have seen it or whether it's speaking to your comments. But anyway, they're interesting, but they're way over my head. So I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. That's an ongoing theme, of course, is the impact of various elements of our local industry. So we're now on what section?
So, are your computers working yet?
No,
No?
I have help.
No, I'm
The
sorry,
screens?
your screen.
The screens are not working.
Screens are not. but
Okay, I
have
just saw
helpers.
our IT person, so if we want to take a quick break before we start this so that we
Certainly. So we'll have an IT
see if it
break.
works. Mhm.
Lots of individual inputs here, of course, as you see with the underlines.
And if there's anything else, I'm thinking maybe not, just go by. So introduction, anything that anybody want to talk about in the introduction? And I still had some work to do, so just FYI.
I would just note there's been extensive discussion about the phrase green links over the months, including on this commission, and we did add a little bit of language using the words green links into the document. Hopefully not too much, but just enough to keep that discussion moving forward.
Yeah, on that point, as I read through, I kept wondering, the active transportation plan has specific projects, and they're very clearly identified, and they're somewhat prioritized even in that document. Green links right now, at least so far as I've seen it, is a idea, but it hasn't really been turned into a map. And so it strikes me that that is a task of the general plan update, is to identify like a phase 1 green links plan. But that's the only comment on that I have at this time.
And I understand what you're saying, and yes, I agree. And that would be partially here and partially transportation or circulation, right? So if there is a specific part that you see it missing, because I thought we had put it in here, but part of mine is defining. So you saw my word define.
Yeah, I guess the question I wrote down for myself here is, are there any that are especially critical or at risk? Any particular?
Well, I mean, my bigger question is, what is a green link?
Well, okay, so that's a good question. And I guess once we have that definition, then my question pops up, which is, let's be specific about where that deserves attention in this plan.
And I think that
Point
is
taken.
going to be really tied to like a parks master plan and, really tied to like greening our trail system and things like that. So like a parks and trails master plan.
Yeah, you raised that in your comment. I noticed that, the nexus to the existing trails, and that's basically what we're all saying.
Yeah, how to connect things and build a trail system.
It's trails, it's also potentially supplements to streets that can link between trails in a way that accelerates or eases the passage of pedestrians and bicycles between existing or new trails across city
So a
streets.
trail can be a sidewalk and or bike
Exactly.
lane on a street.
And that could become a greenish link between the trails. So all of this needs mapping and can deserve future attention. I was just hoping to at least keep the idea alive with the phrase in here.
Yeah, for what it's
And-
worth, I'd keep most of the specificity in the circulation element and not in this.
And Norma has her hand
Yeah, I
up.
was just going to say that. I think it really belongs in the circulation element with the connection to Parks and Recs. But I think the bigger perspective is that this is people flow, whether it's on a sidewalk for direct transportation to and from an area, or whether it's visitor flow. It's about transportation and circulation. So I would like to really pull it back from Parks and Recs and put it in circulation if it's possible.
When we get to circulation, we'll put more in there. I think part of what we were like in these specific spaces, I think it's, in this case, maybe it's not, it's emerging, Green Links system, which I'm in lowercase because we haven't defined it. But in this case, it's more about the greening component or the natural aspect. Like in this specific instance, it's habitat. So that's what trees and grasses and things like that create that habitat. And then what you're talking about, more of the way we get around, is the circulation aspect, which is the system itself.
Yeah, and it needs to be in both to the degree appropriate.
Yes.
And it should cover both visitors and residents. Yeah.
So back to Philip's comment about the staying in our lane. I guess I didn't see anything specific about the carbon sequestration benefits of the Green Links proposal, and that if that's going to live someplace, maybe it belongs in here as opposed to in circulation, because this is where it would be more relevant. you could still cite it. The other thing would be, to the extent that this document is a prescription for Parks and Rec for implementation, then maybe the elements that get fleshed out in this document versus circulation are those that are more to kind of the goals and objectives that we're trying to achieve in the Parks and Recreation program.
And you see that, I feel like, in here when we're talking about the tree inventory, canopy study, you know, developing a UFMP and that side of it. I think when you're talking about the carbon sequestration, like, it may not specifically state those words because those are big words that we get, but those are not words that everybody gets. And I think our goal is, what are those tangible things that do what we know it does, and how do we make sure that there's, and I don't know that, I mean, I can look at it a little bit closer, but I don't know that I need that language specifically to tie it.
I'm thinking like no net loss, simple words like that.
So tree, canopy, yeah. And then in the circulation element, when we get to it, you're gonna see more around VMT and also alternative transportation, which is that side of it, right, of the carbon sequestration.
And I appreciate that this document in front of us right now, this draft, is the reaction of the initial draft to this committee's first review. So it's going to look like this. I expect that. Thank you.
Other comments, Commissioner? This chapter?
Or goal 1, anything else, goal 1? Going once? All right, goal 2,
Go to, Tom?
soils.
On soils and minerals, wondered if we have any soils that we consider to be damaged, polluted, or otherwise in need of remediation and rehabilitation. What came to mind for me were leaking underground storage tanks. Do we have any specific policies around that in the city? Also, the medians along our roads and our railroad corridor, are there problems in those areas? If so, raising that bigger question of where does local food production belong in the city? And I have some further comments on policies for enhancing local food security that mostly get into in COS 7, so, but foreshadowed in this section here on soil quality.
And the food gleaning is becoming increasingly evident even in the last few weeks.
I'm so sorry. Can we go back to goal 1? My lunchtime notes weren't really doing me justice. I think it was 1.9 at the very bottom of page 4. We talk about native trees and all of that. I'm wondering if do we want to also add a note of, in addition to native, which is wonderful, but also maybe climate smart or resilient or something of that language? Thank you.
I will say yes. I had that someplace else, and wondering, I'm just kind of scanning through. If I find it, I'll bring it
I
up.
think I noted it in 5.7 as well as like a possible crossover, so, which I think you just mentioned as a point you had too later.
Okay.
Anything else in 2? Going into 3? We're into air quality and the building environment, so it's both ambient air quality and internal air within structures being covered in number 3.
Are we just doing goals, or are we doing goals and actions?
The whole section.
The whole schmear.
Okay, good, because then I do have some comments on 3. CalGreen Tier 1 is referenced in COS 3.5. And my question was, are we actually in compliance with this now? Because my understanding is CalGreen Tier 1 requires 15% above minimum Title 24 energy performance. And I vaguely remember looking at this for the city of Santa Rosa several years ago, that they we're relying on a decision by the local codes officials to waive that requirement in CalGreen, even though their general plan and their climate action plan and various different city commitments all said, yeah, we're gonna meet CalGreen Tier 1. So that's a flag to staff to look into that on Tier 1.
Something's happening on the computer here.
I'm just seeing.
No, she's jumping
what
around to see if what's
I knew
in
you
that,
couldn't see it because your screen
if that was in
locked.
fact repealed or something. Trying to answer my question real time, thank you.
It does say.
Tier 1.
So it is still required, and we are compliant with that. We are asking our file permit applicants to meet that energy requirement.
They should be, yes.
Good. And then I think 3.6 had to do with Tier 2. Is that, my notes got fuzzy at this point.
I'm seeing a distinction in Tier 1. I'm seeing a distinction in Tier 1 between buildings versus retrofits. In terms of meeting Tier 1 and what I just saw on the screen.
Yeah, it says require new development.
Yeah, new but not retrofit.
That's right. These standards only apply to new buildings.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
So 3.6, you said?
That's fine. On 3.6, this was just to support and encourage, not require. And I think that's the way we want to keep it. I just wanted to be sure that was
Well,
the
we
understanding
went
of
on,
the two.
Philip and I think, to identify and assess beyond support and encourage with applause into some actions to identify and assess the probable impact, as I'm reading in here, which I think the two of us thought was a good addition. That's why you're seeing it in red.
Oh, what you're saying is that if we are falling behind on our 2030 mandate, that we should consider implementing Tier 2, not just, that should
Yeah.
be phrased the way you have it
As
here.
appropriate as we get closer to 2030, we've had so much success so far that on VMT that, yes.
That's reasonable. I support that.
We're still alive in 2030.
On COS 3G, I'll just be sure I'm getting this correct here. We don't have a 2050 goal at the city. We have a 2030 goal. California has a 2045 goal. China has a 2050 goal. But
So there's something wrong in the phrasing in 3G apparently.
we should just strike to 2050 as I understand it.
We went dark again.
Switching back and
Oh,
forth. Yeah.
So I'm seeing a need for some alterations in the phrasing in 3G, is what I'm hearing.
It's not, I mean, we can identify a date or, if we want to do 2045, it can be 2050. It's a 20-year mark. It's not, there's no standard, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, that I'm aware of, that it's always going to be the one number.
Well, if I may, I double-checked this afternoon because in our city resolution 59-2020, which is our climate emergency declaration, be it further resolved, the city of Sonoma commits to a citywide climate emergency mobilization to net zero no later than 2030, and that be it further resolved, the city of Sonoma will, during the update of its general plan, evaluate and include the goals of net zero emissions by 2030 mitigation, carbon negative action, drawdown, and management of climate affected impacts adaptation. So I think we are kind of held to that in our existing,
The 2030, yes.
to 2030.
I meant the subsequent.
I beg the
The
reason
ju-
for a 2050 goal if we've already met our mitigation goal by 2030.
The reality?
Well, so that was to my point earlier, is that the reality is that I still think we're on track to achieve our 2030 goal, but not by means of pre-planned mitigation, but by collapse of our economy and economic activity and therefore emissions. I think we're likely to experience in the next few years a catastrophic event that really hits us. And that's how we've achieved emissions reductions, frankly, in the past, in Sonoma County and maybe elsewhere. And the pandemic was probably the most recent example of that. So if I look at the reality of the matter as such,
That's
observed by
assuming you're
scientists,
not counting the emissions from the fires, which were
including-
horrendous.
Including the emissions from the fires, which are, as you would say, an accelerating effect, a further forcing factor. So my point being, we have a 2030 goal for various reasons that are largely driven by the scientific imperative. And so I think we shouldn't kick the can to 2050 unless we have new findings. And the findings in our existing resolution are the ones I'm relying on in this commission.
So what I'm saying is this is a 20-year plan, right? And even if we hit net zero by 2030, you know, like you were saying, COVID happened, saw lots of reduction, right? But we went back up. So I think an idea behind a climate action plan moving forward, it's going to be close to 2030. So what have we not achieved? What do we still need to do to continue to maintain, right? And that's what a subsequent plan could do in the subsequent years. I guess what I'm saying is don't end it. Like, let's understand that we're going to have to keep going and that it's not everything changes so fast here in this world. And that's why I'm saying don't just throw it out.
I would suggest taking out subsequently for and inserting language here like, and continuously thereafter until 2050 or beyond, language like that, that continuously evaluate performance and appropriate action.
I
We
would
need
support
some
something
better
like that.
language in there instead of subsequently for. Other commissioners' thoughts on that? Very important to this body to get this language right.
I think the 2050, I like that idea because, you know, if you're a gambling person, if you put, 30 and you fail, then people can point at that or have feelings about that, well, they said they were going to do this and their planning's so far off. If they missed it by 10 years, it makes it harder to get people on board. It looks like failure is sort of built into these plans that people have, like our plan. So I think to have it match the 20-year plan of the city, if it's a 20-year plan, and make it be 2045, 2050, I think that's smart.
So something to the effect of continuing the efforts with regular updates instead of
Continue
saying
to take
specific.
effective action thereafter. Something like language like that. Effective and appropriate action thereafter. I'm trying to draft without having.
Okay.
That's an improvement.
Moving on to 3H. I noticed that one interpretation of this could be that we are committing ourselves to the Sonoma Clean Power Evergreen Program, which we've discussed here at this commission as being pretty expensive and not necessarily a good investment of limited city resources. And that was proved to us by the presentation from the representative who came from Sonoma Clean Power. So it says, continue to participate in clean energy programs such as Sonoma Clean Power. We're cost effective. I mean, I want to give us an out if we decide the city wants to redirect those funds to something more, a better use of those funds. So yeah, I'll let you wordsmith that as you see fit. Any comments from my fellow commissioners on that?
You can take the parents out if that's what you don't have to specify that Sonoma Clean Power's included, or just take the parents out.
Could just strike the whole thing.
Yeah.
Could just strike their reference to the such as. I would
You
support
could
that.
add in before the word clean, appropriate and effective as modifiers and take out the clean power organizational reference. appropriate and effective, does that work for you?
I don't, those are subjective. Appropriate.
A lot of
is
life is.
subjective. I try not to use adjectives and subjective terms sometimes with things like that, because you may think that, but then they may not.
Understood, but you're left then with a clean energy programs without any sort of sense of what they are or whose they are.
They
Then
cost,
the clean-
I'm fine with the word effective, just not appropriate.
Okay, that's a good negotiation, thank you.
is it cost effective that you're talking about?
You know, I was talking about cost effective
Not
primarily.
only, no, I'm talking about effective, even if not cost effective, as we get closer to 2030.
And I appreciate the conversation because I agree with that comment.
Next.
I still have specifics, so I'll keep going if nobody wants to.
Yes, sir.
4.5, manage retreat. We need to add the concept
Sorry,
on
which
4.5.
Okay, hold on just a second. We're still on 3. Anybody on 3? Going once, going twice. Okay, 4.
We have here encourage and support public and private sector investment in climate adaptation and climate resilient infrastructure. And there's a list of things. And I think to be added to that list, which is a pretty good list, is manage retreat and home and business hardening, specifically Zone 0 vegetation management, which is required by Executive Order N1825, passed this year. Just
We need all these details captured
well,
in
it's
writing.
Just adding to this list
Right, but
here.
we need them in writing somewhere so they don't get lost. How do we capture that?
I'm typing as we go.
She's typing like crazy, but I can't see from here.
Does your computer's not working again? Okay. Sorry, I was getting in there. Managed retreat.
Do you know the phrase manage retreat, Leo?
It's a
So the concept is that there are certain developments on certain pieces of land that may not be worth continuing to rebuild, and we're seeing that the insurance industry is teaching us where those places might be. And so we might need to anticipate that in a 20-year plan.
what was the landscaping one?
Home and business hardening, Zone 0 vegetation management. Executive Order EO N1825.
Vegetation, that's the word I was missing.
Here's the one. Now I'm on 4G.
Zone 0 is going to be known in codes and so on. That's an appropriate addition.
That term is now codified, I think, in the executive order.
I see. And it should be 0. Yeah, that's, yeah. This, by the way, this change in 4.5 could have some interesting impacts on proposed hillside development in Sonoma. And some of the larger facilities are proposed up there, so far not approved by the Planning Commission.
On 4G, if we're ready to go there. It says consider citywide implementation of energy scoring requirements for commercial and residential resales. This is something Philip and I have talked about before.
Just implement.
I want to strike the word consider. I really think that we should explore how to implement this as opposed to just consider it. And my reasoning behind that goes back to my work on the CEC's AB 549 report 20 years ago. I was surprised to find out. We now have BayREN, U.S. Department of Energy Home Energy Score Program, which we got a presentation on, I think, here. And Berkeley has the BESO ordinance now, which appears to be working pretty well. It's a viable disclosure program. It's just telling people what their home energy performance is and giving them some options on what to do with it. And I just think we should do it.
Okay, well, we talked about this a lot. You know where this came from.
Yeah.
And my thought on it was it starts with an education program with the real estate community. And that takes time, and that takes, I think the better answer would be for us to come up with a recommendation that is much more detailed, that could be used to explain to the real estate community what this means and how easy it is, and what the net effect in the studies have shown about it. And that's why it's not mandatory. Okay, well, whatever you have.
Philip says, Philip anticipates my two-page AB 549 recommended phasing of time of sale HERS initiatives. And this is basically the plan right here. The Energy Commission vetted it 20 years ago. And yes, it involves a lot of work with the real estate industry, and that's happening. The Bay Rent is doing that work right now. It's pretty well funded, and it's actually being it's being taken up. So that's why I think we can do this.
Do you have specific language for 4G alternate?
Implement citywide implementation of energy scoring requirements. Take out the word consider.
Dr. Heineman, commentary?
Well, I'm
Commissioner Heineman.
I'm also a doctor, by the way. I think at this point, yes, Bay Rent is doing education, but it's not happening to the people in Sonoma or on the ground, and the need to understand it first. I would rather see our commission develop guidelines to suggest the city council to do this, and only because it's going to be controversial. And again, when you mandate something, you create a document that someone can take to a judge and say, make them do this because they said they'd do it. And I guess I'm optimistic it can be done. It's being done a lot of places in the world. It's being done in California for large businesses, buildings, but we don't have anything that large in Sonoma that is energy scoring that's regulated at this point. And it seems to me to be an education process, and it needs to be so much more detailed that it should be focused on, I think.
Good conversation, and I appreciate the feedback from fellow commissioners, and point taken. I'm comfortable with leaving it the way it is, provided that we agree to work on it.
I had an alternative language for both of you to consider. It's a bit of a ping pong game going on. Implement citywide implementation of city-approved energy scoring. That would put it up to us to recommend potentially to the council as a climate team, and for the council to say yay or nay, and then it would be city-approved.
I'll defer to Philip.
Well, I think
I will too.
Ms. Gates is the action plan czar,
She's the
who's
gatekeeper.
ultimately going to be making the decision. And when we talked about it with the czar, I think she understood that there's some pitfalls to it, and it's something that's important. It's been on my mind a lot. I think it's an economic thing that people should make economic decisions in part based on the energy scoring of their buildings. But we're not, when you're implementing something that is an area where the government has gone into it but not into this detail, I think there's an education process that has to be done. Although we are the most transparent commission, I believe there is in the country. So we try to be transparent. So does Ms. Gates. She's the most transparent
So
community.
it's Czarina, and
That's a reason.
so what I'm putting in the notes, if you can't see it, is expand on a more proactive approach to energy scoring, and that would, I've seen the Bay Rent. We actually had another conversation with the county on the availability of this program. So how do we get it out there? How do we make sure people are taking advantage of it? Having it available when they're coming in and saying, I want to do improvements to my home, and it's based on this kind of thing. Requiring it whenever you require something is when we always get that pushback and the you're making me, this costs more, you're telling, that whole conversation goes. And so I don't enjoy the sticks. I enjoy the carrots as much as we can to like incentivize it in some way. Maybe it's a way to, you get a permit discount if you bring in your energy score that tells us, this is a decision based on X or something.
And the most common energy scoring system that's available is really cheap. But people don't think that. They think immediately, I've got to go hire somebody to come up and do an audit and all that. So it is in large part, an education process that needs to be done to get people to feel comfortable with it. So that's why I think we ought to do some carrots, and we ought to do them soon, but.
Whenever I have a historic, in one of the other jurisdictions, or not this one, but in another one where I had a lot of historic resources that were window, replacements constantly, I would always say, I recommend doing an energy audit first, figuring out where you're actually having air escape before asking, for a window replacement that's going to cost you a lot of money, right? So that's where I play it up in the sense of like, know where you're spending your money on your home improvements by doing an energy audit or an energy score or things like that. Okay, so. we're ready
Moving
to
on.
Move on to 5, because it's 7:20 and we still have 2 more to go. Luckily, one is really super short. But it looks like Jacob's gonna die over here.
Here's the one that Amber's comment made me go looking for, and that's COS 5.7. And my note here says add Copenhagen hot Mediterranean, which I think comprises her concern, which was to make sure we get appropriate plant choice.
That's a very good idea.
We've heard that from Leo before. Excellent commentary from both of you.
I'll just add, if we're going to turn to look around us, we're surrounded by Copenhagen hot, and we are inside warm and hot. And hot is over in Napa Valley. And coastal is actually Marin County, and the whole coastal strip is not Copenhagen or Mediterranean. So we want to pivot our guns at looking at this Copenhagen hot, because the future is hot. And the plants we would plant would then be the correct plants. Thank you.
Thank you. And next?
And then elsewhere in 5, I'm not exactly sure where I think this should go, but I just noted that it didn't pop up in my reading, is to add the phrase stormwater capture and recharge. I believe the Ecology Center had a pilot project with the Veterans Hall a while back that didn't really happen, but that doesn't mean that the technology is a bad idea.
We had a rainwater, Ecology Center, another hat on, a rainwater capture system tentatively designed for the city corporation yard facility on 8th Street East.
We put this into 505, about.
Yeah.
Is it here?
Yeah, 5.5 has
Sort
some
of.
notion of that, and that's why David and I thought we
Okay.
would put it in.
Okay. So maybe it is already in here, and I just want to be sure that I didn't miss it.
We were lacking the money so far to have a detailed design to try to get a full
Actually-
proposal to build the system, and that's
Actually-
where it stalled out.
The concern that I had on reading this is that it lacked the word recharge. Much of this section reads as if it's getting rid of the stormwater, which is the old civil engineering approach. And we now know in California we need to capture and sink that water. So
She's done.
that's the term I wanted to be sure.
You
that
said 5.5.
We want to capture, use appropriately, and then sink the water. But yes.
Other goal 5s? All right, goal 6?
Goal 5 made me thirsty. Goal 6, all I just had was, I didn't see dark sky specifically referenced. Is there a reason that you guys didn't want to use that?
under 6.4 with the light pollution? Is there a dark sky standard that should be referenced?
Well, that was my question of staff, is
I don't know
haven't we
enough
already
about this.
adopted something in CalGreen that involves that, or?
There's an organization that puts out dark sky ordinances and recommendations and policies.
And maybe that's knowing that that term exists as a specific definition, but I think it might have already been adopted into California policy, so just making sure we're not dropping the ball and using a generic term, we could be more specific.
Well,
That's all I-
there's a lead standard as well, in light.
For,
But lead's voluntary, not mandatory.
Well, if you're gonna put dark sky and then, or lead, or whatever, because dark sky's not, it may be mandatory, but I just don't know.
Well, that's why I say, I think CalGreen, which is cited in our documents in our code, I think we may already have it covered, but I just was curious if this conversation had been had by the suggestors to date. So I'm not, I used to be in the early stages when this was being developed, I knew all about it, but I haven't followed it, so I don't know.
yeah, I don't know anything about CalGreen requirements in the sense of light pollution and dark sky. I always associate that with energy versus what we're dealing with is, kelvins, bright illumination, distance.
A lot of it has to do with street lighting decisions and the size of light bulbs and the type of light bulbs in street lighting.
And decorative lighting of homes. And trees. All right, others in 6?
In 7, I had one.
6 going once, twice gone. We're on to 7.
All right,
At
7.
7:29.
This is good for everybody at this punchy hour. I just wondered whether we're being overly subjective in talking about visitor attractiveness. Do we really have a preference for attractive visitors or a bias in some way?
Speak for yourself, young man.
I'm not sure we wanted to, maybe it's just a little bit of a word choice question.
Maybe it's attraction, you think, maybe?
I don't dare
That's
go on
David's
that.
word, so I'm not gonna, it's red, it's David.
Was that, it's red, it's David? Yeah, well, that's how I approach life. Bring on the visitors.
Good news is I'm getting close to the bottom of my list.
Okay. Others in 7?
Blushing enough.
I have nothing else until
All right.
9:3.
8. 8?
I don't know if this is necessarily the place for it, but I was realizing as I was going through this whole part, just the reminder for ourselves to still have that environmental justice lens on this as well. Because I don't know, I feel like there might have, I think it got to the point where I just was looking at the entirety of the policies and the goals, and I'm like, underserved communities was mentioned, I think, in some other sections, but maybe not necessarily here, and I do feel like, we talk about protecting our open space, but I think making sure, there was a lot of talk about public open space and making sure that it's accessible, but I think it's just kind of, I don't know where. It's not a very helpful comment because I don't have a specific, but.
So, it's not environmental justice so much as it's equity, I think, is what the word
Yeah.
you're actually wanting, is the equity part of it. Environmental justice is more focused on if we have environmental impacts on a certain group of people. That's the trying to get the justice part on the, so I think it's more about in an equitable fashion providing open space and things like that, which is a lot of the conversation east side, west side in this town.
Maybe what I'm hearing a little bit is in 8, it's not only acquiring and protecting the important open space, but increasing accessibility to said locations.
And where?
But, that's part of what I'm hearing, rather than the pollution associated with environmental justice, which is usually environmental injustice.
Just side comment. The enabling act that requires the development of this plan, of the plans of the cities, has a whole lot of stuff about open space in it. It's really ridiculous me, I mean, it's just that, but it really wants you to focus a lot on open space and uses, inordinately complicated.
Does that suggest what we have here is inadequate to meet that requirement? No.
No,
Okay.
It-
This is an interesting conversation, because I found myself bogging down and feeling fatigued during this section for, I think, that reason, that we're getting this directive from the state to do a lot of work in this area. We've been pretty parsimonious with our language and some of the other elements we think are very important, but here we've got these obligated discussion. But to Amber's point about equity, the other place that popped up for me in reading through all of these pieces was the policy around more events in the public parks. And it occurred to me that we hadn't done anything in promoting more such events. I took the word events to mean private or contracted events that are promoted by individual nonprofits or private businesses that are working with the city to generate revenue that helps keep the whole enterprise running. And my mind jumped ahead to, well, what if we were extremely successful with that policy and we had events in all our parks every weekend that made the parks inaccessible to people who couldn't participate because they weren't part of that club or they weren't paying the fees to use. It hadn't raised to the level of saying anything about it, but since you mentioned it, it's a tension, I think, that we have to be thinking about. And I hope our city is thinking about that, but it may deserve some comments in the general plan around that.
And I know that's jumping to 9, but that was, it. As soon as I read that, it raised a flag in my head too, because could easily cross a line.
Okay, number 9. I'm already writing it, so.
In 9, I had, again, the mention of the green links there, so it was like, okay, where's the map? And then
It's coming.
maybe the word when appropriate just felt like, what does that mean? So I don't need an answer to that right now. It just rubbed me the wrong way when I saw when appropriate. And then 9F. Oh, in 9F, we talk about an action associated with a needs assessment for the Parks and Rec master plan. And we have recently done a needs assessment for Olson Park, and we know from that the top things people wanted, I believe, were bathrooms and shade. And so I think without actually performing the needs assessment, we could put those in here as things we already know about the community. I didn't want to be more, I'm not saying we shouldn't do the assessment, I'm just saying that we should acknowledge what we already know. And maybe pickleball.
Is there some specific
Because
language about
pickleball is,
building on the results of recent needs assessments?
I was just saying we should be specific to the extent that we can on the things we already know about what our community wants. We've already done the outreach. We already collected all that information. We presented it to the city council. So let's not.
I thought it was just for that park, though.
It was specific to that park, but I think that it's safe to say that bathrooms would be requested and shade would be requested at all our parks. I know that we have the comments I've heard about lack of trees on the west side of town. I know Commissioner or City Council Member Lowe feels strongly about that. I know the whole City Council considers shade to be a priority. So, and then I threw pickleball in there just because I like to be controversial, but also because I know it's so popular, and as we've talked about local economy, maybe pickleball would be a tourism promotion attractive.
I'm not putting pickleball.
I'm sure I could come up with something for you, Philip, but I'm not going to do it now.
Others?
I think we're ready to move.
Did
On
Amber have any more on 9? I didn't know if you had more thoughts.
Well, one of the interesting things to me is that Sonoma Garden Park as a city park, not in the city, but in the county on 7th Street East. But there's the potential for significant improvements there going on now that will make it an even more wonderful location.
I think 9.6 is just the one where we could add note about equity or underserved communities too. That was sort of my add-on from 8. That's where it would tie into that section as well.
Do you have specific language to propose or just a concept?
It was a concept, and
Okay.
I don't know if there was already discussion
We'll
on it.
defer to staff to take the concept and put language into it
9.6?
on equity issues.
Sorry, Jennifer. I don't have specifics other than it felt like the most fitting spot.
Okay.
Okay, good discussion. Moving on next. Wow. Yes, indeed, and an important one from a climate perspective. Yeah.
Any possibility to make a very brief comment before you go to circulation?
Public comment would be certainly welcome at this point, Armando. Certainly.
Sorry to make the meeting longer, but anyway, your discussion about 2050 versus 2030. Given you all mentioned different things that come up, COVID and this and that and the other, but right now, gas prices, drill baby drill, gas has come down, driving goes up, pollution gets more and whatever, and now all the issues around electric vehicles and the economy about, charging stations and goals at the federal level. And so anyway, I like the idea of going to 2050 when we can. And the other thing is I've been reading quite a bit just because I'm in the newspaper or whatever about well metering and the concern about groundwater and the concern about commercial users, vineyards in particular, which are outside our city, I understand, mostly. But still, it is a concern, and I don't know if some of that, I don't know if the city still has operating wells or not, or that's a question. I don't know, but I don't know if there's any equity issues in regard to homeowners that have wells and rely on those wells versus how the aquifers seem, I'm told anyway, they can run together and whatever, and one can affect the other in usage and that kind of thing. So just questions and thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we're moving on now to circulation element, another important piece of this puzzle. Jennifer, do you want to lead us through this?
Yes, so any general comments?
Here we go.
I'm going to jump in again, unless somebody wants to go first. Reiterate just the top comments I made before the task force. As I see it, we really, and I haven't necessarily reviewed this for any changes since the draft was there. So if this has been addressed, I'll bite my tongue.
So what do you mean, the first draft when you read it when we did the task force meeting?
Yes.
So the red that you see on your screen
Newer?
is the new stuff.
Okay, good. So my sense is that the prioritization is inverted, that we really, safety should be our top goal and not encouraging circulation, that we want to be sure people don't die when they come to visit us and we don't die ourselves here. And we hear that from the public whenever they talk about circulation, that's their number one concern, at least as I've heard it.
We do say it's paramount importance here. That's pretty strong language.
True, but I'm thinking in terms of the listing of the goals.
I see, as opposed to the paragraph 2 down.
Yeah, and then, I think we should add something regarding bike share. And I support parking reduction strategies. I think that there are some edits on that in here. And we already have talked about the green links and the need to put that here in the circulation element. As for quantitative goals, there's a mention of the level of service level of D. And if we're going to mention any kind of a metric that is, especially in that case, a automobile driver specific metric, we should also identify a level of traffic stress and pedestrian level of service, the other two metrics that are now recognized for other alternative mode users.
Is there a specific section you're pointing to that they
section,
should capture?
That's circulation 1.7 that mentions
Thank
level
you.
of service D.
There we go.
And the active transportation plan is also under that same. The active transportation plan identifies the high injury network and low traffic stress routes already. And so the circulation element should include policies and actions targeted to achieving those aspects of the ATP.
Can you?
So a stronger linkage between the ATP and this circulation element is being recommended.
Make sure that we're
and cross-referencing.
not, that we're, where, circulation 1.7. So the old plan said something probably about maintaining an automobile level of service of D.
Yeah, it says D. I added your stress level pedestrian comment here.
Okay.
But then you started talking about connecting with ATPs. Are you talking about in regards to safety?
I'm thinking it's primarily in regards to safety and the high injury network. Make sure that that is explicitly addressed in our policies, that we are committed to working on that objectively empirical reality of this is where we have problems, which is what I think our traffic safety committee is focused on. And then if we're going to be having a metric for cars, we should also have a parallel policy for, you know, low traffic stress routes as well. And I think that's already in the ATP. I think they identified those routes. And there's a few that are problematic, I think, if you do a kind of a gap analysis of where the stress is and yet where we're expecting alternate modes, and that kind of pops out where the needs are.
So the policy would be more about, which we've put in here, is to prioritize and implement circulation improvements including those identified in the ATP.
Mm-hmm.
The only reason why I don't want to be specifically putting what the ATP says, the ATP will be updated more often than this will be.
Understood.
Yeah. So it's a more general reference here.
And then I just also had, I know the city of Cotati has done a lot of work on WUNRFs, and they probably have WUNRF policies. WUNRFs.
What are they?
That's a European word, I think it comes out of Denmark. It basically means streets where cars are able to go, but they are it's usually only used by the people who occupy those buildings adjacent to that street. They're not throughways. And they are very, very walkable, and they're very community character enhancing. It's worth looking up that term and deciding if that's something for Sonoma. And the other concept is called a superblock, or in Spanish, supercilles. In Barcelona, those are, what they've been doing is, especially in the Diagonal district, they have these massive apartment buildings that are quad. They fill up a whole block, and they have an interior courtyard, but otherwise it's a big apartment building. and have historically had boulevards between each one of them. And what they've been doing is selectively making some of those either off, no traffic can go through it, so it turns it into a little plaza, or really slowing it down more like a Wonerf. And they're very popular, and they are very property value enhancing. And I think that, you know, Cotati, I know, is really excited about them and has started to implement them, and it's something that we should be considering in our traffic policy or circulation policy.
San Francisco has slow, safe streets, which, you know, on
Lake Street.
Lake Street and Page, and,
Right.
yeah, and that is similar to what I've seen in Denmark.
Exactly, and so these concepts are well tested around the world. They're very popular. They're revenue inducing in the sense that people want to be there, and it drives people to hang out at night and all that and spend money. So good stuff for us to think about.
There's been discussions fairly recently of some of that potentially around the plaza, frankly. A lot more to be said about that, but not at 7:50. But discussions are underway about that. Some parts of the plaza could be blocked off as pedestrian only. Probably not all 4 pieces, but certainly probably 2. Norma.
So I'm not sure where my comment falls, under which element. But I'm very concerned about emergency evacuations.
That's gonna be the safety element.
Okay, I'll hold for that.
Thank you. Anything else on this particular element before we move to the 4th, and if my math is right, final for this evening?
I just wanted to follow up on Circ 1D, collaborate with Caltrans. And
Always a pleasure.
let me just see if I follow my notes, figure out what I was trying to say here. Widening associated with new turn lanes between Ramon Street and Riverside Drive. I think that's right in front of the Staples. Is that right?
It is from Staples up to where it's currently wide by the turn-in to the mobile home park and Sonoma Bowl. So you know how we have from Verano down to that area, it's wide,
Right.
and then it shrinks back down. So the idea is, what is that gonna look like in the future with Caltrans? Like, what improvements are they gonna start implementing on that second half of that
Right.
street?
So I just wanted to be sure there's not a conflict between this and policy 1.4, which is need for actions to address the high injury network and high and moderate low traffic stress 4 and 3 corridors. It just struck me as when it's here specific with, I guess you have enhanced traffic safety, which is the main purpose of 1.4. And improved traffic operation. My point is, sometimes those two objectives can be in conflict. And so,
I think that second part of that sentence is trying to get to that conflict by
Balance.
doing the must be balanced with implications to other modes.
that's satisfactory to me. I just wanted to call it out because it is going to be one of the major projects in the city in the near term, I think, 5 to 10 years. And I just want to be sure it doesn't end up being a traffic flow maximization opportunity and not a safety enhancement. That's really the substance of my concern there. I guess I also had consider automated speed enforcement. Is that something we have had any talks about at the city? Especially on like the high injury network. I'm seeing all kinds of new technology developments. They're talking about limiting electric bikes when we don't have any limits on speed in cars. just strikes me as being a little inverted in terms of priorities, but anyway, just put that out there as a matter to be considered.
Can we add to that concern bikers going through stop signs without stopping as a traffic safety risk, sir?
So now you get into the, honestly, I think you've got a point there. It is a problem.
Hit a guy once.
It is a problem. People on bicycles are equally, or oftentimes worse. They oftentimes suffer repercussions more directly for it. But your point's well taken. I think we are working on that in our active transportation plan and our education and outreach plans to encourage better bicycles training. And I know the Safe Routes to School program, I was going to leave this for announcements, but there's a workshop coming up in October where we're going to be discussing some of the Safe Routes to Schools and what's that grant that Margot Conyas has in Healdsburg and Santa Rosa. They're doing a bunch of templating that we can maybe take advantage of down here. So I think Ashley Cotter from our staff will be hopefully attending that meeting and bringing some of those best practices here to Sonoma as well.
Other commissioner comments, inputs? Hearing none, where are we here? We have one more to go? Or was that it? Yeah, we have noise. Yes, ma'am. Public comment. Thank you, Norm. Please, a quick public comment is always appreciated.
I know you're looking at the clock, but sorry again, Armando Zimmerman. I like a lot of the stuff, as I mentioned to begin with. I took this list from the circulation element to the Traffic Safety Committee on Monday, I guess it was. But anyway, safety and calming, all related to volume, vehicle traffic. We know that at least, you can correct me on that, 65% or something like that of greenhouse gases relate to motor vehicles of any sort. It's also related to the noise element. And the Traffic Safety Committee has put together, or I don't know if it's still in draft form, a handbook anyway that's online. I find it hard to follow it, but nonetheless, that would be available to the citizens and so forth. Now, I understand that they took the model from maybe a Bay Area city, maybe Berkeley, I'm not sure. But nonetheless, what I've seen in looking through that is that now there's a lot of discussion in terms of how to mitigate any particular thing or where to put our neighborhood's request for traffic mitigation, whatever, and into I don't know if it's called a matrix of some sort. But nonetheless, there's lots of discussion now as to which streets were local and which ones are now becoming or have become connectors and so forth and so on. I do want to just say that I think we have some situations where there are just conflicting points of view. And what I have here is a recommendation to the Traffic Safety Committee by the contractor city engineer, or who's under contract. And he's talking about a request for a small traffic circle, which is mentioned here as a possibility to use traffic circles and even quick builds and that kind of stuff. And he's talking about. He says, for reasons noted, and I can't go into that because you'll kill me. For reasons noted, this type of device is not fitting with the existing conditions, roadway geometrics or traffic volumes. And I looked at this and I'm going, duh, that West Spain Street was basically laid out 200 years ago. And so, of course, the existing conditions for me are just, that's crazy to say we shouldn't be looking for ways to mitigate, especially the speed of automobiles. And we're not, the sheriff's department has already put through their contract. They're not getting any extra money to help, with a lot with enforcement and so forth. So this traffic engineer also then in his recommendations says it should also be noted that for reasoning and discussion, the traffic calming ad hoc rejected the inclusion of neighborhood traffic circles on roadways carrying significant traffic, whatever that is. Depends on how they want to name it. Okay, I'm going significant traffic, and then such as collectors and arterial roadways. So there's a lot of, I think, counterintuitive stuff going on here, and it's in the midst of creating, goals for the next, 20 years. Thank you.
Thanks for your insights. Okay, where are we? We have a ways to go. I'm wondering at 2 hours we might take a stretch break, even though that adds to total time. But
It does.
Give-
We just have noise, and then we have Jacob, and then we have ad hocs. So just keep that in mind. Also, our computers will shut down at 10 o'clock. So
we're gonna.
it's 8 o'clock now. So
We're
I'm
gonna- Some of us will shut down prior to 10 o'clock,
just giving the heads up.
and I'm reciprocating.
Okay. So
All right, let's
5
do
minutes?
a very quick 5.3, 5.5 minutes, no more.
Okay. Starting now.
Noise.
Is yours down again?
Mine is up.
Down, down. It's a left-right distinction here.
It's those same ones.
think the cord comes in somewhere around there.
Somebody's kicking the cord. Oh, we just turned it back.
Cord kicker. We don't know who it is.
No, that's not ours.
No.
Is that, what is that?
Ah,
What is that?
I don't think we're kicking any of it, but
I promise you I'm not kicking anything.
so enjoy. There's a restaurant called the Crab Claw. And apparently their home was right next to the Crab Claw.
Can you put it off too? His reset.
So my ex-wife went to Colorado Springs and met a boyfriend there, and I never wanted to.
They're not blue yet.
Welcome to St. Michael.
It was just, I wanted to go to St. Michael's Street, Colorado Springs.
While we're waiting, yes, ma'am.
While we're waiting, noise element, general comments.
General comments. Dr. Conlon.
No, I have actually. I'm sorry. On noise, you'll be surprised. I don't. Oh, that's not true.
Okay. We're not surprised.
I was going to say I have no comments, but I was anticipating we would be getting punchy by now. So all I have is add exception for pickleball, ban disco, question aircraft flyovers, and enforced ban on gas-powered landscape equipment. Sorry if that's irreverent, but those are the things I was thinking about as I read through with low attention to the noise element, I'll admit it. I live outside the city limits, so noise of the city doesn't usually bother me.
I find the enforcement ban an interesting concept. We've seen some enforcement. We've seen, on a slightly different topic, some enforcement of no dogs on the plaza in the last 6 to 12 months compared to the previous 800 months. So things are moving on some of the enforcement issues. I've seen actually enforcement of that ban on gas powered. And maybe some kind of enforcement about the idling ordinance on diesels. And
I was going to bring
Dr.
that one up.
Fogelberg is going to comment on that.
Yeah, so I'm, again, not sure where that would rest in here.
It's here, it's in the, I think we already have idling also in the circulation element. And in here as well, and there are other groups.
Because it
that
is
are-
an ordinance.
It is.
And quite honestly, if it's not going to be followed, it needs to be eliminated. And if it is going to be followed, we should activate it.
So my AI says that it's a ban on sale of equipment. If you have existing equipment, you can still use it. That's what AI
Ours
says.
is an idling ordinance on our streets.
Okay.
That's what they're talking about, not a ban. The ban is on
I
the
was talking
leaf.
about the lawn leaf blowers.
Yeah.
He's
our
on the
leaf
leaf
blowers are-
blowers, not the diesel cars.
I'm sorry, I'm one step behind at
Okay.
this time of night.
I'll look closer, but I do code enforcement actions on the use of gas-powered leaf blowers. I think we have a very specific leaf blower ordinance.
Okay.
So not landscape in general, it is a leaf blower.
Again, I don't trust AI all the time.
That's good, I'm glad you don't.
Other comments on the draft noise?
Are there bans for the city's use of gas-powered?
Yes.
You know, the Armstrong Park is full every week of gas-powered, gigantic gas-powered mowers.
Really?
Yeah,
That's in
Armstrong's not,
violation.
that's not ours.
yeah, it's loaded. And I think there's a policy to pass the mowing around to several companies. I see, it appears that way. That's what we're all
So,
guessing.
leaf blower is the only one that's not allowed under our ordinance to be gas-powered.
I see.
So you can use gas-powered other equipment in
Got it.
landscaping.
Good to know.
Thanks for the clarification. And I do believe the city's own equipment, though, has been largely switched over to electric. At least that was the intention, and I think they followed through on that.
Other comments from the commissioners on noise? Philip? Oh, no computer.
Can you hit the button?
No, still no computer.
Oh, drag it.
Haha. So, computer just came on again.
Okay.
Once more, my question, any comments from the commissioners to be shared on the noise element? Looking left, looking right. Obviously, comments that occur later could be sent in individually to Ms. Gates. And perhaps we can move on now, unless there are any other commissioner comments on category 3.1 in our agenda. I would move us with great alacrity into 3.2.
Are we past noise?
What?
Are we going past noise?
Yes, oh, we are trying to.
Public comment, I think. is
Public
what-
comment on noise.
Specific to climate action.
Specific to that and no more than 3 minutes.
Okay, that's all right. Okay, I mentioned noise. I read somewhere, and I can stand corrected, that along with the greenhouse gas tailpipe emissions, noise is attributed primarily to motor vehicles. And again, broken record, I live on Spain Street. There's speed displays around, up and down Spain Street. The faster people drive, or drivers drive, the more noise it is, and the more modified that car is, and the bigger boom box it might have inside, it shakes, literally vibrates the windows in my, in my home. I don't open any front doors, windows, anything on Spain Street. It's just, and it does come and go, but it's daily, okay, the time of the day. So again, I think it's the elephant in the room that police, they say it's hard to enforce. But nonetheless, there's been talk about I've heard of a historical business district designation that might lower the speed limit in and around the plaza. And I'm thinking, well, the noise comes into the plaza even when cars are, basically backed up or whatever, depending on the vehicle and depending how it's being driven and how it's modified. So I think that could be a place to start in terms of saying that there could be some enforcement around the plaza, Tuesday nights, markets, any big events like that. I think that's a place to start. And I don't know if that can be entered into this discussion with the city goals. We could start with that business district and then move out a little further.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And indeed, noise is of interest to all of us, but it's not a major climate issue. I would have you direct your comments more to the City Council directly, perhaps or the Planning Commission, on the noise issue on Spain Street and the plaza. Okay, I'd like to move on to 3.2, a presentation on charging smart designation. I hope it's presented with alacrity.
So I don't have a presentation with slides, but I will talk on the subject of it.
That'll be just fine, sir.
Yeah, so the Charging Smart, we've talked about this a little bit. I'm just going to go back into the purpose of it and some of that engagement that we're doing. So the Charging Smart program is an EV readiness program that's encouraging the establishment of policies and procedures that are going to impact EV charging deployment in the city. The program is intended to create more streamlined pathways to provide guidance to residents and business owners to help simplify the process for installation of EV chargers or creating EV readiness at their sites. So far we've participated in multiple meetings with what's called the Interstate Renewable Energy Council. They're also called IREC. This has been going on since April, and we've been discussing opportunities to achieve program goals, which are part of the requirements for receiving a designation. We ask questions and interact with other jurisdictions in this region just to be able to kind of get some helpful information about what they've been able to achieve, how we might be able to help, or how they could help us. The meetings are held once a month, and we discuss our progress and receive support in achieving the program goals. The meetings so far have covered planning, regulations, utility engagement, education and incentives, and government operations. We also met directly with a service planning and design representative from PG&E to discuss the opportunities for EV charger installations in the city and kind of what that would entail involving power upgrades and availability of power in the locations that they already are. They provided information that would assist the community with determining their eligibility and the requirements for installation. And so going into the program actions and designations, the program has 3 designations, which we've talked about before, which are bronze, silver, and gold. The designation criteria are based on established best practices that encourage the growth of EVs and EV charging infrastructure. The criteria are organized into those 6 categories that we've had meetings on, so that's planning, regulation, utility engagement, education and incentives, government operations, and shared mobility. Each category includes program actions with points awarded for each of the actions that are able to be accomplished. The designations have a specified number of points that must be met to qualify, and along with the specific program actions, there's a specific program action that needs to be met for each category. Some of them, one of which doesn't have a specified number of actions, but each one has specific points and things that need to be achieved. So we identified a list of program actions that could be achieved before this deadline. Some of the actions need additional work for completion, but we've already been able to fully execute some of these. So some of those actions or the policy that we've already established that have awarded us points is the climate action strategies, which establishes the community-wide EV vision, so that has given us points for that. Sonoma Municipal Code Section 14.29.090, which is for permitting EV chargers as an accessory use in all zoning districts. Makes it a little bit more of a streamlined pathway for people to be able to install EV chargers. That also provides us points. And online permitting, which makes applications more accessible to anyone in the public, gives us the opportunity for points there. Program actions that could be achieved includes adoption of a preference policy for EVs in the municipal fleet, which we intend on applying, training staff on best practices for permitting and inspecting charging infrastructure, which I have received some training videos and things that we can participate in to be able to achieve that. Establishing a web page that promotes collaboration, education, and assistance with setting up infrastructure for EV chargers. And so that's kind of one of the next steps I'm working on now, is determining how we can improve the web page for EV charging infrastructure to be able to provide additional helpful information to business owners, people who live in residential properties. And then that will help guide them to outsourced information that also helps them with getting that charger installed. So next steps is that we plan to continue working on achieving those program actions and receiving the Charging Smart designation in November. And so we're confident that we'll receive the bronze designation. We hope we might qualify for silver, and we'll see how that goes. One specific thing about the silver designation is that each category with the program actions there's specific program actions that are required. One of the program actions for silver is that we have a fleet analysis that's already been completed. And as of right now, from what I understand, we don't have that. So that might be one of our challenges. And that's what I have for Charging Smart. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Jacob. Very informative. Phil?
Aside from the fact that it makes us feel better, does the gold versus silver, does it give us more access to money?
It's more of just, for us to be able to show we're making movements towards, improving EV charging capabilities. The thing also I meant to mention is that even though we get our designation in November, we can continue to achieve program actions, and we can also, at the next opening, we can get a new designation for silver or gold. So even though we get that the designation ends in November, we can continue to work on the actions. We can try to push for them as much as we can, and then later on we can get silver, and then maybe we can move on to gold.
Norma?
So I just wanted to expand upon that
Okay.
too, and
Yep.
I'm gonna ask Jacob to correct me if I'm wrong, but it's, there's no funding involved in either direction to help us achieve, nor if we do, that we can access grants or anything like that. It's more about recognition, and they acknowledge on their own website and sources, I think was part of what I would remember from the beginning of the conversation with them, that they will acknowledge, here's all of our jurisdictions that we've worked with, and here's their designations and things like that as a city. And then that helps put the word out that we are at this readiness level to work with those that actually install and implement.
Norma?
So, thank you for doing this. You have moved this along. So my question is about, when can we put together, the royal we, a RFP that can go out to potential businesses in regards to installing these EV units? What do we need to have in place? Because I gather we don't really need to wait for our silver or bronze. We could move forward. I mean, it would be helpful to have that. But when can we start to put out an RFP and ask for proposals on establishing more EV chargers in the city?
I mean, when it comes to putting out an RFP, I would say that's probably up to the cities, I mean, whoever's going to decide that we want to get that grant funding, we can put an RFP, but that's not necessarily up for me to decide.
So I think there's two different things, and I think that may be what Commissioner Heinerman's going to speak to here in a second.
It is, yeah.
Okay, so there's two different things. One is an RFP. An RFP is a public process by which we request proposals to do projects. And in some cases, there would be locked bids. It just depends on the type of projects. That's a government process for us, specifically for public property. If we're talking private property and working with businesses for their installation on their sites, it's more about education. And that the ability to develop incentives around that is something different. Educate, easy, free. Incentives cost money, right? In a lot of cases, and that's for a city council decision. If we were to say no fees associated with that permit, that's a city council policy decision to be made. But as far as educating, we have the ordinance in place to make it easier to install. I mean, part of this whole experience, I feel like, for Jacob and I, more so Jacob, because I wasn't involved as much, he just tells me what he finds, is finding it all. Things that we've done, the things that Travis did already, but we hadn't shared it with the world that he already did these things. And so we need to share it, right? So if we're looking at how do we make it helpful, I will say the biggest issue is the conversation that we had with PG&E is the infrastructure part and that cost associated with that. And there's not funds for those types of things. And so we have chargers. We know where we want to put them as far as the public goes, but the money involved in getting the power to those, that's part of the hill that we're going up.
And the other thing is that with these actions, some of these actions will be able to tell us what kind of projects we want to seek in the future. So in terms of creating an RFP, the actions aren't helping us determine what the RFP, or make it so that we can do an RFP. It just determines what kind of RFP are we going to do. What do we need to request? So what kind of projects are we actually looking for? based on what we know
Yeah.
that some of these studies reveal for us. So like a fleet analysis, doing a fleet analysis, it's a comprehensive plan, looks at what we currently have for our municipal fleet and how we can improve it. That would lead us into a place of, okay, how can we get the funding to be able to do that? So it's kind of the lead up to being able to receive funding for improving our fleets or improving our EV infrastructure and things like that.
And the business incentives offered by the government are very important. We just finished last week. I live at Cornelius Village Lost. We have 30 residential units. We have 20 business units. Business units include people from the University of San Francisco medical professions, a lot of doctors. We had someone come in to evaluate the installation of an electric charger. No market. There's no market for it. He did a complete evaluation, went around, saw how many electric vehicles there were, how much projected usage there was, because they're all run by private businesses, not by the government. And so I keep telling Jennifer, or Ms. Gates, the Tsarina of electric vehicle charging, we need to pitch businesses and say, where do you think you're going to make money?
Other comments on this? Tom?
Thank you. So I was under the impression the city already had a fleet procurement list and had already identified opportunities for electrified municipal vehicles. Is that not true? I think that
In terms of a comprehensive plan, I haven't seen a comprehensive plan. I know that there was the push for getting the trucks, and that's the whole point of getting the Lightning.
Right, but the city does maintain, I think, a central procurement spreadsheet, basically, of existing vehicles, what their useful life is, and there were electrification opportunities. Some of those vehicles were low-hanging fruit electrification opportunities. I don't think has the city bought any passenger cars in a long time that are not electric? I don't think so.
So I think there's a couple of different things going on there. We need to update that fleet. It's been a while since that got updated, and it is an Excel spreadsheet. So there's that, but it needs to be updated. So that's part of what we're talking about, and being more comprehensive in an actual analysis and the opportunity to, or even a policy. I don't know of an actual policy that exists that's more codified as far as when these opportunities arise to evaluate whether or not you could do an electric. So, because we buy fire trucks, we buy EMS vehicles, we buy the police cars, we buy everything. So there's no policy around all of that. It's opportunity arose, and so we chose to do the Lightning trucks, and then they're testing out the street sweeper to see how that works and if that makes sense.
So that makes sense, that there was an existing spreadsheet, it needs to be updated. You know that there's some electrification opportunities already. We do have this policy G3 in our list of strategies, prepare city fleet and equipment electrification plan. So that's essentially what you're doing here. So that makes good sense to me. You mentioned streamlining permits for EV chargers as one of the things that you get points for. We've had public testimony before our commission about the permit cost for that. Have we taken a look at that? Do we know what that costs?
I did take a look at it, and I apologize, I forget the total cost. I talked to the chief building official about it, and I can't remember total. I think it was under 1,000 though.
Under 1,000, but
it was
still
under
more
1,000.
So I think that was the concern. I don't remember exactly the number that the person had quoted.
It's much higher.
It did seem like it was.
I thought it was, yeah.
So
This is permitting cost only, not an installation cost.
Correct.
This is
it
just
is a permitting cost, and so we do have a fee. It is not a fixed fee. It is cost based on how much time of review and things like that. That instance is not a norm situation. There was a lot going on with placement of that, where that was going. It was a condo complex. It was quite a distance from the actual source of electricity. Like, there was other things going on, like trenching was going to be required. I mean, there was a lot. So it wasn't like a plug and play. So.
Jennifer, you're talking about the woman who, okay,
Right.
presented to us months back. Okay, thank you. And
Right.
thank you for following up on that. Jacob, it would be great if you could come back with more specificity on the overall permitting, residential permitting process
Okay, yeah.
and costs associated with it.
Yeah.
And I get what Jennifer's saying about it really depends on the situation, but it would be helpful because I get asked it a bit.
Yeah, I mean, in clarifying the process is beneficial for us too, so, yeah.
Other commissioner comments on this topic?
I
Tom?
just wanted to
Yeah.
finish up.
Yep.
I noticed that we don't get any points for shared mobility. Is there something in that action that we decided was not appropriate for the city?
It's more of that there isn't already, I don't have anything that's established so much to where I feel that we're gonna be able to accomplish it in the time. I think in the future we can. A lot of it has to do with coordination with, sorry, I'm forgetting of our local transit authority. SCT.
SCT.
Yeah, so we have to work with them for some of those actions to be achieved, and I'm trying to think of what other ones. There was, when I had gone through the list of potential actions, a lot of them seemed like they were very, you know, we would have to do a lot of meetings, we'd have to communicate a lot with other agencies and make a plan that would just take longer than it's gonna take for us to get the designation here in the time that we have. But over time, I think we definitely could have achieved some. So one of them's deploying electric transit, paratransit vehicles. Another section category is deploying electric school buses. And then another section is develop electric micro-mobility transportation and developing EV car sharing programs.
Excellent. So the school district already has quite a fleet of electric buses. They're working on getting some more, although they did buy, I think, the last gas diesel-powered bus available in the state over my objections, just because they wanted to have flexibility, and it was cheap because apparently they were dumping them. But so that we might already get points if we kind of reached out to the bus person at the school district.
Yeah, I think if we can get in touch with the school district and we can find out what, if any of the things that they've done can meet the actions here, that could help us,
And
yeah.
then the other thing I come across recently is that County of Contra Costa has an automated shuttle that they're piloting in 3 locations. It's an automated shuttle bus, and it runs around and picks you up and takes you just right where you need to go. It just loops, and it's very safe apparently because it's a very short program group. Frankly, something like that would probably fit here with the right vetting. I know it's early stages for that, but just something to keep your eye out on, something we might want to.
Are you talking about the driverless
Yeah,
when you say automated?
yeah, driverless shuttles. It's gonna be big in terms of shared mobility. And yeah, the paratransit, I don't want to, that's a complicated matter. I'm not really encouraging us to pursue that. And then lastly, you mentioned PG&E, and I know one of our objectives, one of our strategies is to do parking lots over time, parking lot solar canopies. And EV charging associated with those could make a lot of sense, and it could be privately financed, and it could be a perk to the property owner as well as to the retail users, and just something to keep in mind for that in the future.
Thank you. Other commissioner comments on this topic? I have a host of personal comments, but I'm looking at the time. I'm eager to propose a separate issue on EV charging at a future, preferably the next commission meeting to put this on. With all due respect, Jacob, I care very little about the points. I care a lot about EV chargers. And there have been several attempts to bring EV chargers into Sonoma, at least conceptually over the years. Some of us have been involved deeply in this that haven't proceeded to conclusion. We need a map that shows exactly where we want these sites, and so there's a great deal to be said. I would just note in passing that there is an oil company with all of its political baggage that is pulling gas station pumps out and installing EV chargers. I know this because I saw one personally in San Francisco when I was driving back from somewhere, and have subsequently gone on that oil company's website, and they talk about it. So I'm eager that at least one council member with whom I have spoken is not happy with supporting an oil company. I'm hoping maybe to get 3 or 4 other votes in the council for this purpose, and said council member is listening at the moment, but so be it. So at a future session, I would like to have an entire approach to EV chargers. How do we get there from here? And one last thought, a number of us have been working with the team at the chamber on the possibility of an EV shuttle that would offer transport through Sonoma, hopefully even up to the Springs, and be fully EV. We haven't got it funded or designed yet, but the team is moving in that direction. So with that, and some hopefully future detailed discussion, I'd like to move on to our next comment, topic 3.3, City Council approved work plan and ad hoc committee reports, starting with education and outreach. Jennifer, do you have anything in preamble before we go into that topic?
Our screens are dead again.
Yes.
I don't have anything up on your screen. I will, though, when it comes to your turn. The general plan we already did. Budget is going to be closed until the next time. And with the budget part of it, I've asked, we have what you drafted up and some thoughts about how to show it differently and add more programs and try to pull the information. I think this, if you look at the budget now and it's all online, it's a lot easier to kind of dig down into for all of us to find numbers.
Yeah, thank you, Jennifer. And I did attend the budget meeting where I did notice that we got a little bit more granular information in addition to what was previously reported in our ad hoc report about existing city climate expenditures. We now have a number for what we spend every year for the fare-free transit subsidy to Sonoma County Transit to keep the bus ride 30 inside the city free to our users. So, and I'm looking forward to the next budget cycle having that. So I would like to make a motion on this to disband the budget ad hoc and entertain a second.
Is there a second to said motion to move beyond the previously existing, currently existing budget ad hoc team?
As the second
There's a
member.
second from him.
I'll second.
Uh-huh. All
And we
right.
can just do a straw vote. We don't need to do a roll call vote. All those in favor?
I see.
Thank you all.
Any nays?
No, then we're done. Straw vote is done. Thank you very much. On education outreach, Norma, do you want to summarize what we've been able to do in that team or what we're currently doing?
Yeah, we've been doing a lot. Amber, do you want to just touch on the website? Because that was a topic we discussed maybe last time.
Yeah, so we've begun just digging through, based on the site map, each page and just initial edits and things we want to work on and sending those over to Sarah just to get her input and approval from Jennifer when needed. And thank you. So it's going to be a long process. And I mean, if anyone ever has other things that they notice through Jennifer, I guess let us know. But we're continuing to work on that. I'm sure we'll set something up to go through a round 2.
Yeah.
We found a system that I think seems to work without getting everyone bogged down in meeting after meeting. So yeah, it's in progress right now.
Yeah, it took us a couple of hours to sift through what we did originally, and I'm sure there's another 5 or 6 hours to go on that, so.
Have you gotten my input?
Yep.
I sent some materials to Jacob.
Oh, okay, great. And just to Amber and I, it was fine. Thanks for doing that.
And we've had the development of an outreach structure to try to eventually reach many members of the community. Eventually, pretty much all the residents are our target group through the different organizations. Perhaps Norma would say a little more about
Yeah,
that
so-
structure that's in draft form.
So Jacob sent out I'm calling it the partner contact list. What did you call it? It's in a Google Doc. And that
I
was
don't remember what it's called, but I was given it by, I believe, Tom. Unless, I don't remember.
No, I think by me.
Was it?
And the
Oh, by you.
purpose of that list was to identify organizations in town that we can use for outreach to their distribution lists. Jacob did send it to everyone, and the request was, take a look at it, please. If you have a relationship with anybody on that list, that's important for us to know. And then between now and our next meeting, we're going to go through and identify some top priorities in terms of organizations on that list. And then we'll start to look at what our communication strategy is going to be, because we've been doing this now for about a year. And we'd like to report in to our residents what's happening and what they can do. That's it.
So take a look at that document that's been put together. It's quite an extensive list of local organizations, lead individuals. Do we have it right? And then we need to start getting climate-related action materials out to these folks to energize action.
So Jacob, will you resend that document? It's a Google Doc. You don't have to feel like you have to fill out the Google Doc. If you just want to bullet some names of people that you see in there, send it back to Jacob and he'll send it to us.
That's the way we have to do it under the Brown Act. And there may be other organizations we missed. If so,
Let us
please
know.
add them.
Because by end of year, we're gonna really kick off our communications to our residents and those organizations and businesses. And we'd like to find out who can spearhead which of those relationships and what are the priority ones.
So Norma, in the materials that I sent to Jacob, I had a list of, I had imagined in a Google Doc that would have the opportunity for any member of the commission to propose content blurbs that could be included in city communications, like newsletters or website. And I had a separate page that was specific website edits, a separate tab, I should say. And then I was also trying to keep track of questions, like tonight Mr. Zimmerman asked a number of questions. We've heard that staff and ourselves do try and follow up on these things. So even though we don't respond to them immediately in public comment, we do eventually try to reach them all. So that's what this multi-tab spreadsheet was intended to do. And the idea is that, obviously I can't send them to you directly, but that staff would be able to.
I'll look at them as soon as
So Jacob's
I
going to
get
send
them.
that, so you can take a
We
look
can
at
share that with the whole ad hoc.
What I'll do is I'm gonna add it to the Google Drive, and I'll also send out a link that includes.
That's right.
I'll
Perfect.
include you all with a link to it, and then any edits that you wanna make to the docs, you can make them. You don't have to send them through me to make the edits. Feel free, if you have something on there, you wanna make an edit to it, you can do that.
Okay.
Right, and I think I've got a comment in there, which is, this is who recommended it, what the substantive change would be, and then if staff has a comment about maybe why that's not appropriate, then they can put that in there so that we keep track of these kinds of suggestions as we move through the update process.
So we actually will need to have someone keep an eye on that. Jacob, when this document that Tom is talking about comes to you, unless there's a way to notify the rest of us, or actually, yeah, we need to come up with a way of letting us know that people have made additions and revisions, some kind of notification system, because primarily it'll be Amber and I looking at this.
Yeah, it's called a workflow, and I think there's tools in Google Docs
For doing
to
that?
facilitate that notification, but I defer to staff in
Okay.
because they want to have control, I think, and make sure that, you know, my initial draft had some facetious things in there about an image of Jennifer Zarina as on the Climate Action Commission webpage as our Joan of Arc heading into battle, but then I thought maybe that's just not appropriate to put in the version that I'm actually going to send to the city. So, but I might have something similar in something I've said, so.
Right,
Brenda,
right.
you worry about that.
Well,
So-
I do worry about it, but I'm
So
gonna,
all of this is available, will be available to the public. So I am saying that because
Well, that's.
I don't want to, all these new tools and things like that are accessible by all. If you all got in at the same time, that's a meeting. Yeah, so there's just little things like that. So we're fine with you working and adding and editing and stuff. Just know that, you know, probably we'll then post it with, you know, the next meeting when we do the update. We're gonna
That'd be great.
do a link to, you know, post that information and document. At this point, this is what that looks like. These are all the partners that we've discussed and things, because I just want to make sure it's transparent, but, and that's where it goes with, you know, Tom's, stuff can go to you all, but the conversation would have to happen at this meeting. So as long as that's understood, like some of the things we're looking at it right now. So the website suggestions, so it's specific to the outreach and education. The news as well. And then there's some what you were talking about with like questions and overall, that's more for staff as far as work, you know. So we may just edit this a little.
So can I clarify, the Google Doc drive that we are using is also available as a non-edit but review drive for any of our residents, anyone who can access the website?
No. So
Okay.
it would be that I would, you know, if somebody wanted it, we would give it. But otherwise, I'm saying like, when we are discussing it,
Okay.
we're going to provide that document for that discussion.
Okay, great. I got it. Thank you.
So I'll also give it to the director to review prior to us posting it onto the Google Drive, just so that we're meeting all those things. The other thing is that we were talking about seeing who's added something to it and knowing when. There is a version history button. When you click that, it does show who made a change to the document and when and what time. So
That I'm familiar with. It's just if there's 5 of us accessing and no one accesses it, or one person does, it would be great to get the notification that, oh, the document has been changed. I can do that in Slack, but I've never been able to do it in Google Docs.
I'm not sure.
I'll look into it too.
yeah.
Don't rely on me for any of this. Anything else, honey, you know? Oh, no, okay, I think we can move on. Climate Action Programs updated 2025. I see a line here, but I'm not quite sure what we want to do about that.
Well,
Miss Norma.
I asked to have that put into the agenda because that is the document that we really work from. It gives us our priorities and, you know, we need access to that and we should really be looking at that each time we meet. You know, what have we done and what's coming up next. And so I know we have the general plan that we're working on, which is taking priorities, but I'd like to bring that back as a priority for us to review as soon as possible at each meeting,
Yeah.
the first thing we do.
Now I'm remembering.
Yeah.
The concept was at each meeting agenda, the first item on the agenda would be action items since the previous meeting from our document, from our
Right.
strategies document. What have we done? And that begins to help us focus on what is priority that hasn't quite had enough attention yet.
Right, and as Jennifer mentioned when we met with her, the priority really now is the general plan, which is why that's up first. But I'd really like to take this list and cull it down to the top 5 priorities and look at those for each of our meetings after we've completed the general plan and really make some movement on it so that there's communication available to go out about what we're doing.
Sounds like something we might just want to take a vote on. Is the rest of the group of commissioners in agreement that this could be a standing agenda item of looking at climate action strategy actions and reviewing where we are on those as a standing agenda item?
So
I would open to a motion to do so.
You don't need to vote on that.
All right. All
So
right.
what I'm gonna say is, we will always have the ad hoc committee reports with the actions on every agenda, for sure. If there is something specific in regards to the climate action programs, so what I'm hearing is agendizing the whole entire list again to determine your 5, yes, to determine your 5 priorities. When we talked about this before, the priorities we had determined was water, cash for turf, because we have active things going on, right?
Right.
General plan, active thing going on. Education and outreach needs to get done. That was why we identified those as our top 3.
And budget was the other.
And the budget was the other one because we were pending budget very quickly. So we're just closed the budget. We have the 3 ad hocs as the focus. We can, in the interest of time, agendize the programs again for the next one. If there's something, if we want to create another ad hoc around looking at something specific from that list. So I would ask that all of you look at the list again, and what is something that we haven't tackled. And I know I always say this, but what's the low hanging, what's the things that we know is accessible right now? If you're looking for a success, that's what I always recommend, is what's available to us at this point.
I would submit that we have a prioritization already in the target year column.
Yeah.
And maybe what we could do, I'm not against us revisiting this at our next meeting and having that discussion about priorities and focus and maybe some new ad hocs if necessary. But I think we don't have the fuel to get through it tonight. And,
No.
But all good conversation.
And also, Jennifer, you did talk about the fact that you have your priorities, which we want to support. And so if you look through that and come up with your top 3, that's helpful to us.
So those are my top 3.
Exactly.
Yeah. So if you want to add more to your list, that's on you.
Feel free.
That's on you. Those are my top 3 that for a while. And the reason why, and we talked about, which is the one that you haven't talked about, which is the next one, is water and cash for turf. They have met and they do have something to talk about. So that's why I was saying then time-wise, like, let's give them their opportunity because they have met and talked about things. And then
I do want to talk about a special meeting and see if I have consensus among the team that November 4th is too far away. But let's go with the water cash for turf. Who's going to do the initial presentation on that amongst the team? That's Leo. Go, Leo.
Okay. So we had an assignment from Jennifer in May, I think it was, that we would look at a cash for turf document on the website and find it in the website. And initial searches did not turn up a cash for turf document. We couldn't print one out or obtain one. And so here is what one would look like, a proxy. So here's one from an example I'll show you. And one of the reasons we couldn't find it is when we audited the website, we did not find a cash or grass for turf, ours is a cash for turf page, an HTML display page. Didn't exist. So what we decided to do was, can we get that sitemap? We made a little project management system to control how we would find this. And so there, each one of these, the words under one, water conservation, making conservation a way of life, residential programs, commercial programs, water-wise landscaping, this is really for vendors, I think, that we would need to insert a cash for turf page here where you see cash for grass. So under residential, it would be at 2. Under commercial, it would be 3. Under water-wise landscaping and installation issues, it's number 1. So these are the user groups that would use this. So we're now surfacing the users with a single page that would be a cash for turf page. And could we click the cash for grass page in the example? And the way this sitemap works, it should take us to the HTML display page. She knows what. It's not the moon. We're not shooting for the moon or Mars. So we could, this is a, it's taken us to an example page here. Here's a, within a water conservation, here's cash for grass that you would find under residential, commercial, and water-wise landscaping. And yeah, this is a Napa example, and it's selling and pitching this initiative, and it's designed to empower the user, whether the homeowner, the business owner, the landscaper, to easily access a wealth of valuable standards and information to convince them to go for this program. And so here is the cash for grass link. And we don't, not only do we not have this page, we do not have this link that would return the fiduciary document that controls the interaction between the buyer, in this case, the residential user, the commercial user, the landscaper. And so why don't we click that?
Leo, a quick comment. I don't know anything about a page existing, but I do know years ago the program worked because we were able to pull grass and get some cash here in Sonoma. It's probably 15, 18 years ago now when we did that here in Sonoma, but it did exist then.
So that, yeah, if you, Jacob clicked the cash for turf and grass, whatever it was, it didn't work. It went nowhere. So why don't we see where this one goes? If you scroll down on this page, and there it says cash for grass, click that link. Yes. And this returns this page, which is the takeaway that's handed over the counter at the city offices to the people who looked at the web page. So we're talking about building a single web page. It's a scrolling page, and it's flexible. It can be whatever size you want. And I don't know the details of how that's done, but we do know, as of this afternoon, Tom and I talked, and it is a WordPress site. So an organization, what is it, Proud Cities, is a nonprofit that was tilted up to sell to the cities, and it sold to cities a WordPress site and kind of packaged it up, and it is what it is. It's fairly primitive what's able to be done. It's largely because it is not, it doesn't have PHP in it to make it really very, easy for you to change. So, yeah, this is what we're proposing, and I'm proposing that we turn to the Czarina, Mrs. Gates, and see what Ms. Gates would like to do with Jacob and I, and I'm willing to work on this single page. And Tom and I have met about the standards that we might have other links to.
The director's running through where we are currently with our website, with our webpage, and the lack of access to that sheet that Leo was talking
So
about.
it's there under that drop-down FAQ. Can I get a rebate if I remove grass turf?
There we are.
So it's there,
There it
but
is.
you have to know it's there.
Yes.
So the action items, Leo, are to
Yeah, I think
work from where we're starting, but make it more user exciting?
Well, I think to develop a turf, cash for turf page, and this cash for turf page could be more sophisticated, and it could get sophisticated. But I would propose that we build another HTML display page that you once saw, but has now taken a hike.
Jennifer, can you
somehow.
back up there on the city site to where you got to this one? So right here, this is called water conservation.
And then there were cash rebates listed.
Right. So, Leo, this is the page that is the closest existing proxy to what you found in Napa.
Mm.
And the question is, we kind of need to evaluate if this page is inadequate, if it needs additional.
Why don't we, in that area, let's move to the Napa site again, back.
Right.
All you have to do is navigate back to the link in my site map. And let's look at the Napa water conservation page.
The higher level page.
To
right
give you
there,
a
yeah.
sense of the depth of what it would look like and should look like. It would look more like this. And let's scroll down. Yeah.
A little more user-friendly to,
Yeah,
non-
do you see this, the end users, residential, commercial? Let's scroll down a little bit more. They're right there, okay, they're there too.
I think this is making really great progress. Recognizing we're after 9 o'clock, I would think this becomes an important topic for our next commission meeting if we can make progress before then between the page we found on our site that does exist with a form and this a little bit more exciting Napa example. Perhaps we can come back with a proposal for an improved approach to all of this that we can then use the E&O team to excite people about going out and pulling some grass and getting some cash.
Yeah, I was just thinking that all the garden clubs and the Rotary clubs, if we have an updated link and we have a campaign called Grass for Cash, or whatever we're gonna call it, we will send that out to that list of partners, the contact list that's on the Google Doc. So that's how that gets used, and say, would you please
I
send this off
propose
to
that
your.
there are two pages we're talking about. We're talking about the water conservation HTML page, and we're talking about the cash for turf page. And I would suggest, why don't we have some meetings with Jacob, and we'll all get together on the Climate Action Committee ad hoc, those of us on that, there's Tom and I, and we'll find out, what do you want? And I would propose it's a non-functional image that you'll get that we could look at building, and that could be built in Photoshop or Illustrator or something.
Sounds terrific, and that can be an agenda item for our next meeting. Is that acceptable at this point? If so, that's great. What I'd like to move to next is the fact that our next official meeting is November 4th. My personal opinion is we've got too much to cover to wait that long. We'll all be 3 months older then. I could say such a thing. And I would propose a special meeting, which I have the authority to do as a chair, but I'd like to have some consensus amongst the team as to whether you think that makes sense. And we're looking perhaps sometime in September, mid to late September, early October, something like that, to split the difference before November 4th.
I think it would be great. I'm up for it.
Okay, thank you.
I
Others?
would I would say it's great, and I think I would put some calipers on it. I think maybe we should only do those goals page that night without going beyond that and swallow a big piece. Is that what you're thinking?
That's good. I mean, that's better than no meeting at all. I would prefer we also talk about EVs again and some of the climate smart activities that are underway. But we can build an agenda that's a lot tighter than we had tonight with general plan. Will we have more general plan chapters? I'm asking it with a question mark.
Yes,
as
you
if I
will.
didn't know
So
the
it's
answer.
going to be general plan.
So
Okay.
that's
So
another
your-
reason
so
to have a
your
real meeting again, just to
focus.
keep moving on.
Your focus is
bef-
going to be
Good
general
idea.
Before
plan,
it goes final.
and then we're
So-
just going to keep pushing to the November, whatever we don't finish after general plan discussion. So if you want to have another meeting,
First week October sort of splits the difference.
we can't do that week.
It looks like the 24th of September.
9/24 Rosh Hashanah.
SVCAC, yeah. I need to look at what the SVCAC meeting, so I think it's the 24th. In the school district? I don't know. So this week is not a good week. We're at a conference and Jacob's out of town. And
Which weeks are we looking at, Jen?
so so maybe Thursday the 25th of September,
Uh-huh, okay.
and then October. No city council member there. That's out. I don't see anything up yet from the school district. So maybe that first week of October.
Wednesday the 8th is a second option.
No, not October 1st. That whole week's gone. So only the week of the 6th. Doesn't need to be a Wednesday.
So do we want to take a vote, or how do we pick between 9/25 and 10/8?
I'll propose the 8th.
I can live with either. Other votes? Okay, October 8th, going once, going twice. Any major problems with October 8th? Hearing none, I would propose a special meeting of the Climate Action Commission for 6 p.m. on the 8th of October. Is there a second? Do we need to vote on it, or we just do it, or how do we want a protocol?
Yeah, we can just
Just
do
do
it.
it.
And so I'm gonna,
Okay,
we'll log it
Yeah.
and get it in there and hopefully not have a conflict that is not already on the calendar.
thank you.
And if we can just reiterate the agenda that we're thinking about, we're gonna have the webpage redesign is gonna come back before us for the water conservation.
Cash return.
We're going to review the climate action strategy for prioritization. And we're going to have our ad hoc updates, including the general plan update.
Yeah, and further discussion of EV charging.
Which is in so the EV charging update,
It's in
right,
there.
that's a separate item. So-
It's separate, but
It's
it's in the
also in the
list.
priorities matrix in 2 places, so,
All right.
yeah.
Is that everything? That's everything that's current and hot, right? We don't have any other ad hoc that is, maybe education outreach really is the webpage focus. Is that right?
Okay, that's plenty.
It is
But
a
it's
lot.
good to-
It's a lot, but I just make
If
sure we're
we
not
can't
dropping
get
the
to it
ball
all,
there.
we can slide some of it to November 4th, but waiting for all of it till November 4th isn't gonna work.
Agreed.
So that's,
Very good, thank you.
going once, twice, we're okay with all this? Okay, I think we're done, other than commissioner comments. which we can take in any order. Why don't we just start, go, Leo, any further final comments for the evening?
No, I'm really happy with the meeting.
Very good. Amber? Oh. Tom?
I just wanted to know if there's any progress on our missing unfilled seat, and if there's any assistance needed.
I can respond to that on behalf, as the chair. There's been significant progress.
Yep.
And it's pending further decisions by the city structure before any further details can be presented. Is that safe enough to say it that way?
That was pretty vague. I was just gonna be a little bit more specific and say, I believe at the next city council meeting, the individual will be identified.
That's I didn't know what I was allowed to say. Thank you. That's my understanding as well, talking to the individual and others. So yes, progress. Other, Norma.
I'll make this quick. Outside of this role, I do a lot of work in helping get bills passed that are specifically related to fossil fuel issues, single-use plastic, etc. I'd like to ask us to consider whether or not we want to review bills that impact us here as when we meet and as appropriate. I'm passing down this way. There's one for each of you. There's 2 bills right now. I would hope to talk a little bit about them, but I don't think we really have time. However, I will send something out to Jacob, which synthesizes both of these bills. I will say the important one, I think, is the Make Polluters Pay bill. And it's really based, and I have these for you guys too. It's an important business decision that we start to look at how we can charge some of the fossil fuel businesses for the impact they have on our environment. And this would help do that. Does not raise the cost of gas. Vermont and New York has already approved these. And it only really impacts the top 3 polluters, which at this point may be Phillips, Chevron, and Valero, excuse me. And it's just, we need the money. And we have had already 45 different incidents here in California from 1980 to 2024 of extreme weather conditions and climate disaster events, with losses exceeding $1 billion each. So this, if this were to pass, it would impact those companies less than 1% of their profit revenue. So if anyone holds stock in those companies, I wouldn't worry about it. But it would also put some money back into our coffers. So, and then the other bill is about microplastics. You could take a read, and if anyone wants to talk about it, I would love to, and I'll synthesize it and ask Jacob to send out something, if that's possible.
Thank you, Norma.
Thank you.
Tom, anything? No. Yeah.
No, but I'll just say to that, maybe we should agendize a brief discussion of our, whether we want to be making legislative recommendations to the city council. I know the city council has its own process for determining support of bills, and they have participated in a countywide effort. And we want to support those efforts as opposed to get triangular to them. So,
Yeah, and I'm looking into this. So LA, San Francisco, and San Diego supervisors council have all signed resolutions on this. There are 114 other individuals from government offices that have signed resolutions on this, as well as other counties that have signed resolutions on this. So I'm going to leave it like that for now, and I can speak offline about my residential approach, not commission approach, as how I will be speaking with the council.
Thank you. 3 quick comments from the chair. Just to be sure, you all know, I suspect you do, but if anybody's still hanging on KSVY and so on, the United States Environmental Protection Agency has repealed the endangerment finding. This is a critical decision made by my former agency, the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, with implications that are international, national, statewide, and here in Sonoma with respect to any effective actions, especially at the federal level, but it cascades down to state and local with respect to greenhouse gas causing climate change.
Yeah.
Comment number 2, affordable housing remains a critical climate action everywhere, including in Sonoma, especially residences for potential local employees. I would note a new initiative is emerging here in Sonoma to potentially build affordable housing on church properties that the local collaborative has been working, and the Catalyst Fund, to develop the capacity to assist churches which don't typically have the program management capacity to deal with affordable housing. It's a fairly complex game. And so we're seeing some real progress there, and as appropriate, we might want to support it, learn more about it. Finally, there is a new concept out with respect to the reuse of wine bottles rather than their recycling. This could be a Sonoma Valley initiative. It turns out that 60% of the entire wine industry climate impacts are due to the use and transport of glass. Heavy, heavy glass moving around all the time. We have a new proposal for Sonoma Valley leadership in the wine industry and the climate teams on this issue, and I can provide more info to anyone offline, or if there are too many of us, through Jacob and Jennifer. Thank you.